What's happening? Welcome in to 104.5 The Zone, live from Titans training camp. We're happy to have you. 615-737-1045 is the number if you want to jump in at any point. It's good to be out here at training camp. We've got a cast of thousands as per usual. Kirby and Lucas are here with me. So Sammy, Kayla Anderson is also hanging out here with Ramon, Kayla, and Will. It's going to be a good day to talk about some football because there's actual football players on an actual football field this morning, bud.
Yes, whether actual football is happening right now is debatable, but those first two things you said are true.
So how do we do this? Because there's not fans out here, which means that we are even more restricted in terms of what we can say about what we're seeing in front of us. I think it's within the realm of our rules to say that there's an open field tackling drill going on right now, but I don't know. Is somebody going to run over here and tackle me because I've divulged too much information?
If I say Traylon Burke started the ladder drill with his right foot as opposed to his left foot, will I have a bag thrown over my head and dragged out of our broadcast setup?
Correct. In fact, they will take you over to the sand pit, and that is where the torture will commence, is my understanding. Anyway, 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. So, obviously, we're going to have a lot of fun out here. We'll start our Titans training camp interview series. Sean Murphy-Bunting, the new Titans corner, will join us over here in the 11 o'clock hour. And, of course, Mike Vrabel. I assume Ryan Tannehill, given it's the first day of training camp, will be at the podium, though I have not had that information yet divulged to me, one would assume, but we'll see. And we're going to have a lot of training camp insights and analysis throughout the course of the day. But I'd like to start with a position battle. Now, there's not a ton on the roster, but there has been a more complicated situation because somebody couldn't help but, gamble in the facility. So now, NPF, who is out here and who is available to practice, is unavailable once the season starts, and they have to figure out their starting right tackle situation. Now, this was something that caused great controversy on the internet when Jackson Williams, who's back there at the Zone Studios producing today, sent it to our show group text. There's a picture of George Fant, the still, I should note, free agent right tackle, but a picture of George Fant on the team's official website and in the team's photo album that they've posted of the players' training camp arrivals. Right, it's a little bit of a fashion shoot at this point between games and training camp arrivals. Everybody likes to see their guys coming in. Derrick Henry's making a face. Let's talk about it. All these different things. Yeah.
Where is the X-Files music, please?
Oh, are you now calling for things on command when Jackson isn't ready for them?
I said please.
Do you have conspiracy that you're bringing to the table?
No, just continue.
Okay. So yes, in fact. Great controversy, great conspiracy with the tackle who was photographed at the Titans practice facility but who isn't a member of the Tennessee Titans. So George Fant, that is confirmed, George Fant, it is him arriving at the practice facility, and it was also as a part of training camp arrivals, if that makes any sense. But do you recall what day George Fant worked out for this team?
Saturday, right?
Yes, and do you recall the date for rookies, quarterbacks, and early reports to training camp?
Was that Saturday?
Also Saturday. So George Fant, here for a workout, not here for the workout, but a workout, was photographed coming into the building at the same time. So
was he?
That accidentally gets uploaded to the team's photo album. And there's people saying, oh, of course they wouldn't photograph a player who's just coming in here for a tryout. At this point, of course, this was him arriving for training camp yesterday when the rest of the team reported, as veterans were supposed to report on Monday. Media out here as well, and Mike Vrabel giving his introductory press conference, DeAndre Hopkins speaking. But no, just lost in the shuffle with the early arrivees and then accidentally uploaded as a part of, I'm sure, whoever took the picture probably didn't know what he looked like without his helmet on either.
A clerical error.
Yes, indeed. So now the conspiracy theory is, is George Fant a Tennessee Titan?
You know who else was photographed? The Loch Ness Monster. I'm just saying.
How quick you got the X? That was well done by Jackson. You got the X-Files music just as you said. Unbelievable. So here's the deal. He's not signed. He came in for a workout, and that was the extent of it. Now, the additional information that I have been told regarding George Fant's situation, beyond that he was here on Saturday and accidentally photographed as a part of the team's early arrivals, is that they offered him vet minimum, and he has other offers elsewhere. And the reason that he was not interested in the veteran minimum offer, which, as you remember, we talked about, he was coming into this hoping that they made a good enough offer for him that he would not have to consider the other offers that were out there. But at this stage, not a good enough offer from this team. He stays a free agent, leaves the facility, and the status of Tyler Hubbard, the other tackle who came in here.
Chris Hubbard,
forgive me. Tyler Hubbard, I think, is the what of Florida-Georgia line. Is that right?
No.
He's nodding vigorously, yes. You can turn on your microphone. That's right. Do you not know how?
No.
Excellent.
Our engineers know where to be found.
No, I know exactly where he can be found. He can be found around the corner smoking a cigarette. Perpetually. So, yeah, George Fant's not signed with the Tennessee Titans. A clerical error is why you saw him as a part of the team arrival photos that were posted yesterday. But he's got other offers from elsewhere in the NFL, and he wants a better offer from Tennessee.
He tweeted yesterday, somebody tagging him. We're getting some news today with a picture of him allegedly showing up for camp with this clerical error we're talking about. He replied, I was just at the wrong door. Somebody else tweeted him, see you in Nashville, and he replied with the Kodak Black, I hope so.
Yeah, so again, if they get his money right, then he will reconsider. But he doesn't feel like – and basically the way that it was explained to me is that he feels like if he's good enough to keep that job through 6 games, that he can be a starting right tackle through 6 games. Like NPF was not the kind of player that would immediately retain his job just because he's the player who started at right tackle for them last year. And by the way, it's a fair argument. NPF's a lot of rookie offensive linemen struggle in their first years. Andrew Thomas, who just got a massive contract today from the New York Giants, famously a first-round pick at left tackle, had 2 of the worst years of offensive line play that a first-round pick has had in the NFL and has now turned into a really, really high-quality player. So it's not beyond the pale to imagine that a rookie at any position would struggle coming into the league.
There's benefits of being a day-one starter that can pay off later down the road.
Sure.
But from a business perspective, it makes sense to see what you have first, right, in that right tackle competition for the first 6 games before going above vet minimum for a guy like George Fant.
Yeah, it's why I think a lot of us, when people were saying, what's taking so long for DeAndre Hopkins to sign? What's taking so long for DeAndre Hopkins to sign? And we're saying, well, there's nothing really that dictates he needs to sign right now. There's nothing that dictates that Fant needs to sign with any team right now or that any team needs to sign Fant right now. It's literally, they have had days of work prior to us being out here. So it's not the first day that this collection of players has gotten time on the practice field together. But, for day one, for all intents and purposes of Titans training camp, we don't need to worry about a problem that has not yet arisen. Yes, there is an issue because NPF will not start the first 6 games. But we do not know that issue can't be rectified by a situation that's not on the roster, that's not going to cost them, let's say, $5 to $6 million, right? Because I think that's kind of the going rate for a swing tackle at the very least at this point. And I think there's my understanding is the Eagles are the other team who's got an offer out to him, and that the Eagles' offer is better than what the Titans offered him.
And they seem to have a plan on how they're going to approach this right tackle competition. And it maybe isn't exactly what we formulated, right, when the suspension came down.
Sure. So let's hear from Mike Vrabel speaking yesterday at his introductory press conference, or his opening of training camp press conference, about the status of the right tackle spot.
Worked over there the first couple days, the early report guys. I think Andrew Rupchik will play over there. I think Jalen will have a shot over there. I think OJ will have a chance over there, John. And so, we'll kind of see where things go, and we'll find the best person there.
We're pretty much locked in at guard, at least for right now.
I would say for right now. I'm not, going to get out in front of it too much, but I kind of like where he's at right now and what that looks like, inside. But I wouldn't say that would be off the table. That's just not what we're going to do, tomorrow when you're at practice. So, but I think that could be a possibility potentially. But I just look at some of these guys over the spring, and Peter was a guy that improved throughout the spring, and want to continue that improvement, but he could potentially be out there as well.
So that's Titans head coach Mike Vrabel speaking yesterday about the right tackle spot and about, is the possibility of Skoronski kicking out to either tackle, right? Something that they're considering at this point. And he said at this point, not necessarily something that they're looking to do. They like what I'm not going to repeat what you just heard from Mike Vrabel, but just in case you didn't hear the question was as to Peter Skoronski's status and if they might be willing to maneuver that at all at this point to make up for where they're missing parts.
And the same goes for Brunskill, right? Mm-hmm. Not in that first group of options at right tackle. I feel like that was one that we pretty naturally thought could kick out to the right, and then you figure something else out on the interior. It sounds like they want to keep him there. So do we head into training camp on day number 1 with Jamarco Jones as the favorite right now for the right tackle spot in the first 6 games of the season?
Yeah, because it's not Jalen Duncan. That dude's naturally a left tackle, and it's not like he can at some point play right, but I don't think they'd throw him out there right away. There was a player who was running with the twos earlier who our dear friend Corey Curtis of WKRN News 2 asked for a pronunciation on, number 61, whose last name frightens me, John Aluku.
That's a J.
That's a J? Well, now I'm
terrified. Or is it an I?
Now I'm even more scared. Now I'm
the BYU product, 26 years old.
So he was running with the
no, the Boise State product.
Where are you saying BYU?
24-year-old Boise State product.
Yeah, it's difficult when there's 90 names there.
Is that because Vrabel mentioned an OJ, and I wasn't. He mentioned Jalen Duncan, Jamarco Jones.
I'm assuming that's
Andrew
who he's
Rupchich,
talking about.
Yeah, J-O, OJ.
OJ, J-O, yeah, at this point. So anyway, those are the 2 players who will see reps today at the very least at the right tackle spot, and we'll see what other situations develop. What position battle are you most excited to watch out here? 615-737-1045. There's a couple of ones to choose from. I think there's one that's going to garner the most scrutiny, although there might be some ones that are under the radar that you haven't considered. We'll talk about those things coming up next. We're live from Titans training camp here at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. PhD Weight Loss helped me drop 58 pounds, and they can help you do the exact same within the time frame that they need to. PhD Weight Loss has an incredible program. No supplements, no dietary suppressants, no appetite suppressants, no pills, no shots. They are just going to help you identify the best schedule for you to be able to maximize your healthy eating habits. I loved working with Rachel on a weekly basis when she called to check in to make sure that things were working correctly for me, that everything that we laid out in our initial consultation was still applicable to my day-to-day. It's how it was possible for me to lose the weight while I'm traveling for Titans games, while I'm eating terrible press box food, and all kinds of other things. PhD Weight Loss helped me get right, and they can do the same for you. In fact, they are guaranteeing that if you do not get within 5 pounds of your healthy target weight goal within the allotted time that they set for you, they will continue to coach you for free. So sign up for your weight loss journey today at myphdweightloss.com. That's myphdweightloss.com. Welcome back live from Titans training camp here on 104.5 The Zone. Happy to have you here, 615-737-1045. We're happy to be out here. It's a perfect day for this. A little overcast, a little thick, 2 C's.
Beautiful day.
As far as the humidity is concerned, I can only judge by your hair, Sammy's hair, and my hair, the level of humidity today. Everybody is a little more poofy than when we were at the Grand Hyatt.
That's why I chopped it all off yesterday.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Jackson's back in the studio. I don't know why he is as concerned about me as he seems to be, other than just being a genuinely decent human being. But I'm in a great mood. You don't have to worry about me today. It's football season.
It was just a general greeting. I said, how you doing, bud?
Well, then you said you worry about me in ways that would allude, like, deep concern. Like, I appreciate that you have that level of concern for me, but what is the root of that?
We'll figure it out.
Okay, very good.
Just a nice guy. Why does it have to send up, like, red flags anytime somebody is kind?
Because there's got to be some other motivation. I don't think people operate
Jackson's
that way. Kirby
He's
agrees with me.
just a good human
Kirby
being.
knows. Kirby understands that there is always motivation behind somebody being nice.
Everyone has an alternative.
An objective.
Yeah.
Ulterior motive.
Thank you.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. It is when you can figure it out. But in the meantime, I'll just be suspect of Jackson and all the nice things that he says to me. But nice things that we can say about the Titans at this point, and we'll continue to give observations, criticisms, and critiques throughout the course of the day, although, again, limitations on practice right now because fans are not out here. So if you'll notice, there are not the volume of live tweets that you are accustomed to with videos. For those of you who are very angsty to see DeAndre Hopkins in a Titans uniform, you can see those potentially at the end of practice today.
We can confirm he is wearing number 10.
Yes, yes. Do you think he had to fight tooth and nail with Kearis Jackson to secure that number 10?
I imagine that was a very quick conversation, and I don't know if D-Hop was the one who had it with Kearis Jackson.
So you want to know a funny story that I don't know? I didn't have the radio show when it happened because AJ's rookie year was 2019. Do you remember the first number that AJ Brown wore? It wasn't 11.
In training camp?
In training camp. He came out here in a number 17, and he was very displeased with the number 17. You can go Google this on the internet for reference. You could probably look it up on social media, too.
Wait, 2019 is
AJ's rookie year. Correct.
Ryan Tannehill's here at training camp in 2019.
Correct.
So how does that work?
Well, there was no, he was not. I don't believe at the time that Tannehill was traded for in AJ's rookie camp and voluntary stuff.
Oh, you're talking about like OTAs and
prior
okay,
to
right.
training camp.
Yes.
I might have said training
You
camp.
said yeah.
Okay,
that
so
makes sense.
In the voluntary portion, yes, Tannehill not yet acquired yet. So do you remember? I don't know that this was ever out there. That why AJ Brown came out in a 17 and was quite displeased about it, not hiding the fact that he was not happy with the number 17.
What?
I can't remember the name. It wasn't Cam Batson, but I can't remember the name of the Cam Batson-esque figure who refused to give up number 11 behind the scenes for A.J. Brown. I remember him being a very chesty, undrafted rookie free agent. His name escapes me.
Right, wide receiver?
A wide receiver, for sure. About the same size as Cam Batson. Batson was Texas A&M, and I can't remember the college that this player went to either, but I remember just laughing out loud when I was being told that
was it Anthony Ratliff Williams out of UNC?
No, not the same size. This was a player who had been here previously as a UDFA, not a part of the 2019 UDFA class. But yeah, that was a sign of contention. And then once it was made public that AJ was not happy with the number 17, that player was very quickly cut and
quickly resolved.
AJ Brown came out in the number 11. Not Khalif Raymond either. Khalif Raymond was 14, if memory serves. So DeAndre Hopkins fit in the wide receiver room, speaking of wide receivers. How is he going to improve this situation? How much better can he make this football team at this point? And there was an interesting line from Mike Vrabel yesterday. I'm not sure if we have the audio at our disposal. The wide receivers in different spots, basically, because what we know about NWI and his presence on the roster, Steve Lehman of News Channel 5 and I were just discussing this on the sidelines, the idea that with the Titans wide receiver room, NWI is probably safe this year for one reason more than any other. Because the best thing about Nick Westbrook-Akina, even if you're not satisfied with his talent or ability, is that he understands how to play all three positions within their offense, the two outside wide receiver spots and inside. Nick Westbrook-Akina has enough of a grasp that they feel that they can put him in any of those spots that certainly justifies his roster spot, and good on NWI for using special teams to get that opportunity and then maximizing his opportunities as a UDFA in the COVID year, 2020, I think, to continue to latch on to this roster. We were talking about guys who, kind of walking dead out here. Mason Kinsey, it feels like that might be something that might finally see its end with the situation that the improved wide receiver core. We talked about Colton Dowell and how he is not, by any stretch of the imagination, safe as a wide receiver on this roster.
I don't know how Mason Kinsey's situation changes that much. You could still consider him a practice squad player, which is what he was for.
Sure, I'm just talking about initial cuts. Practice squad is, we'll get to practice squad when we work through the roster cuts. Was
there more of an opportunity for Kinsey a year ago? 1,000%.
Yes. And he still has value as the backup slot player because that is initially his role. That was they've always had a slot wide receiver, though they've always tried to have a pure slot receiver in the mold of Adam Humphries, now Kyle Phillips, who was out here again practicing today. They've always had a backup slot option, a true slot option, so they can keep him on the practice squad and elevate him. That doesn't necessarily mean that his time, but the opportunity. You're correct in saying that window might have closed for a player like that. And with Colton Dowell, he's not better than NWI at this stage. He may well prove to be a better option, a better talent than NWI, but that's kind of the mold that I'm looking at him in, that he's going to have to gut it out on special teams, that he may not make the active roster from the jump, and that anything that comes from that he's going to have to earn because the guy who he's kind of in the mold of is the utility player that they value. Not the most, but that they value to a high degree. And that is what's allowed him to not only earn another contract here in Tennessee under a new administration, but to continue to get reps in a meaningful way. Now, how Hopkins affects all that, he's not the same player as Treylon Burks. And it's not just because you can see physical differences when they're out there. It's not just because you can see differences in – did you watch the difference in their footwork? From Hopkins to Burks, because they were going one after the other in the individual drills, and they're currently running some 11-on-11 right now.
Yeah, it's things like that you overlook. It's easy to say DeAndre Hopkins can help Treylon Burks' development and help, win battles at the line of scrimmage and the get-off and the route running and all of those things. But even the most minute details like that of, yes, you have a wide receivers coach in Rob Moore, that is his job, but just to have somebody doing it right in front of you.
It was 18, not 17. The number that's A.J. Brown.
Wore. Yeah, that looks weird.
How weird does that look?
That looks strange. but
that's right.
Prior to D-Hop signing, the onus was on Treylon Burks and solely on Treylon Burks.
Yeah.
To not just continue to develop and listen to his wide receivers coach, but then to lead that entire group is a whole extra burden that would have been on his shoulders that has, in a way, been lifted throughout the course of training camp.
And that in theory is the role that Robert Woods was supposed to serve last year. And by all accounts was a good teammate, became dissatisfied with his role here over a period of time. And obviously, I didn't think he did much himself to justify, a higher volume of passes his way or what have you, whatever the complaints were when he said, what was it free or freedom at the end when he was released?
Free agent. Yeah.
Okay, bud, get out here.
Now a Houston Texan.
Yeah.
Now we always have to bring it back that Robert Woods was not brought in here to be wide receiver one.
No, correct.
Right?
He was traded for at the time when A.J. Brown was still on the roster, so that was viewed always as a more complimentary piece than somebody who was going to be tasked with shouldering the burden.
Yeah, and he's never been that in his career consistently.
No, he's always at his best. He's always had that complimentary piece with him. They had a moment where Sammy Watkins was supposed to be that player. Cooper Kupp certainly served that role in Los Angeles, and then there was a time when OBJ was still playing for them pre-Woods ACL tear. Though that was something that ultimately ended up being supplementary for that Rams team in the Super Bowl run that year. Point being, his fit is not just, I think he's wide receiver one here.
Hopkins fit.
In whatever context you want to assign that, whether that's leadership, whether that's responsibility for, okay, who's going to receive the primary bulk of targets, who should receive the primary bulk of targets, or at least who should attract the most attention from a defense at this point. That's going to allow Treylon Burks and Kyle Phillips and Chris Moore and whichever wide receiver might work their way into the rotation. Beyond that, that's going to allow those guys to create while still providing an option who, even when he's covered, he's open, right? That's the whole point. They haven't had an even when he's covered, he's open type of player really since A.J. And that's when you see some of the most spectacular throws from Ryan Tannehill, where A.J. Brown is literally turned backwards, tripping backwards into the end zone. And Ryan Tannehill is a great catch, one-handed catch by A.J. against the Bengals. Of course, it gets lost in the 3-interception game, as well it should. But you see how perfectly Ryan Tannehill fits that ball in there to allow A.J. to catch it in a spot where only A.J. can catch it. Those are the kind of throws that a quarterback is more comfortable making, more comfortable letting loose when he knows that he has one of those targets down there that he can trust.
Which is why I would anticipate Hopkins getting more of that attention, especially early on, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, as what the commodity he is and the way that they may move him around, people are going to be keeping tabs on him, probably more so than Treylon Burks. So maybe it's fair to sit here and say that in the early portion of the season, Treylon Burks in the first 4, 5, 6 games is more productive than DeAndre Hopkins because of what that might open up for him.
Well, and I think it's it's how do you judge their productivity, right? Are you simply using counting stats, or are you looking at the advanced analytics on them, right? We just concluded a press conference with General Manager Rand Carthon and the 2 assistant general managers here now in Tennessee, Anthony Robinson and Chad Brinker. And while all 3 of their backgrounds are predicated in scouting, Brinker's role is to oversee now the analytics department, to hire people who are going to help the scouting staff implement those processes, those various, whether you want to call them equations, whether you want to assign it to an algorithm, whatever they are using, True Media, which a lot of media people like myself use to be able to understand, okay, yards per route run and how often is Derrick Henry facing loaded boxes and all these different things. How are you judging their productivity? Are you going to do it by counting stats, touchdowns, receiving yards, receptions? Or are you going to look at what they're creating for themselves and what other opportunities they're creating for others? That, I think, is going to be, the way that we have to either temper expectations for one or the other and how they should be scrutinized rather than just looking, okay, at the quarter point of the season, Treylon has more touchdowns, DeAndre has more receptions, Treylon has more yards.
The whole point is for them to be complementary, right? Like that's
Correct.
What opens up this offense.
They haven't had a complementary offense, in 2 years, right? Yeah. Even when AJ was here in the last season, the degree of availability was such that you couldn't consistently rely on it being a complementary offense. That's why Derrick Henry's volume prior to his injury was as substantive as it was. But I want you to listen to Mike Vrabel talk about the value of wide receivers playing all 3 different spots within their offense, and if all the wide receivers that they have currently are at a point where they can execute that.
I don't know today I don't know if everybody today is ready to do all that, Paul, but I think that there's times based on personnel or call or formation that the guys can remember. We're only going to give these guys as much as they can handle, and we'll start to introduce that and putting them in different spots. And formationally, you can do that based on who's the X, who's the Z, who's the F, and moving guys around. So based on the call that we have and who we want to try to put in that position, I think that those things we'll be able to do those things eventually.
So, and that's the purpose of training camp, right? We saw, again, we can only disclose so much information, but you see guys who are newer arrivals who you might anticipate being at the front of the line for drills and stuff like that, just kind of sitting back and understanding first, okay, let me see how you guys do these drills. We've been in other places. Maybe there's something that I can do to help make this a more efficient drill. Maybe there's something that I notice as a veteran player that might suit my needs better, or that we can talk about with the wide receiver coach Rob Moore and understand better. That's typically the kind of stuff that you're seeing at this point in training camp. And as these guys get more live reps together, you can see, all right, where else can their skill sets be applied? Because Hopkins is one of these versatile players, right? He was asked yesterday about the idea of playing in the slot, and under Tim Kelly specifically during their one season with Tim Kelly as the offensive coordinator and DeAndre still as a Houston Texan at the time. And Hopkins said something to the effect of, "Yeah, when we did that, I don't recall exactly. It's been some years ago."
Why don't we just hear him say it?
Oh, let's do that then. Oh, Jackson wasn't ready for it. You scared him now. See what you've done? Why, you can't just do these things. It's not as easy as you make it seem now.
It's there. We have it.
Do we?
I remember, I think when I was in the slot, you can go back and fact check me, but I might have been, like top 5 productive slot receiver at the time. And that was my first year being in the slot. So obviously Tim knew how to call plays, and, it worked. We were very productive. We were, a couple games away from getting to where we wanted to get to. So I think that helps a lot, not just having me outside where teams can kind of, double me or just, take me out the game at one position, but move me around, not just, it doesn't help myself, but the offense as well.
And that's kind of the what they're looking for in practice and then in application with DeAndre Hopkins and a versatile skill set. So it's not just NWI who's the most versatile player, wide receiver in the room. Now it can be DeAndre Hopkins.
So he ran 584 pass routes in 2019. That's per PFF. 211 of those pass routes, so nearly 40%, came out of the slot.
Are you doing that math yourself, or you have that math in front of you that it's 40%?
That's all mental math right there.
I don't believe it. And if it is, we should question it.
It's
immediately.
36%. It's 36%.
Then why didn't you just say 36%?
Because it sounds better when you say nearly 40. But that's the sample size that we have.
Company man.
That's the sample size that we have of DeAndre Hopkins. It strengthens the argument.
I see. Well,
but that's the sample size
but
we
it's
have of DeAndre Hopkins and a Tim Kelly offense.
You cannot strengthen your argument by misrepresenting and giving and grading on a curve there. But yes, 36. It's still a good number. The point being, so you understand what applications they see for him and how that's going to benefit these guys as you bring them more along, right? Because this is the thing that we've talked about. They may well be good enough. They may well have been good enough without DeAndre Hopkins, right? We have no idea, but they now have a little bit more of a buffer between them and the responsibility of, okay, the burden of the offense is not, it's on Ryan Tannehill, it's on Derrick Henry, obviously, but the other 3 guys are all in their second year, Traylon, Phillips, and Chigakakwo. You're asking a tremendous amount of those guys on top of what will now be 5 new offensive line starters, or at least 5 new starters, with Brewer moving from one position to another. 615-737-1045 is how you join the discussion. Throughout the course of the day, we're going to be talking about what position battles you're most excited to see out here at camp, and we can perhaps provide you some insight once practice wraps up at about 11 o'clock today. Don't forget that new corner Sean Murphy-Bunting is going to be on the show with us in that 11 o'clock hour, and you'll also hear from head coach Mike Vrabel. Coming up next, Lucas had the opportunity to catch up with Joe Milton, as well as the tight end for Jacob Warren for the University of Tennessee at SEC Media Days. You'll hear a bit of both of those conversations coming up next. Two Rivers Ford is the best place for you to get your new or pre-owned vehicle. They are an incredible company that's been in business here in Middle Tennessee for the last 40 years. In fact, they're celebrating their 40th anniversary this year in 2023. That's 40 years of award-winning customer service, of quality American-made Ford vehicles, and of the kind of customer satisfaction that you come to know and expect from a brand name that's been doing business with honesty and integrity for such a period of time. Two Rivers Ford, I'm a proud customer of Two Rivers Ford. I got my 2022 Ford Explorer from them last year. No matter how you like to shop, they're always going to make it easy for you. Whether you want to custom order your new vehicle the way that I did, you can do that online at tworiversford.com or go check out any of their great quality American-made Ford vehicles on the lot. The F-150s in particular, they've got all kinds of different varieties for you to go check out and test drive yourself today. Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet, powered by Ford, driven by people.
Welcome back. Buck Rising Show broadcasting live from Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park on 104.5 The Zone. Titans on the practice field for the first time in training camp 2023. I'm Lucas Panzica, sitting next to Sammy Kincaid at our broadcast setup. That just because we're out at Titans training camp doesn't mean we can't do SEC observations. Jackson?
Let's talk about SEC, baby. Let's talk about the SEC. Let's talk about Nick Saban and Josh Heupel in the SEC. Let's talk about SEC, baby. Let's talk about the SEC. Let's talk about Brian Kelly and Greg Sankey in the SEC. Let's talk about SEC.
SEC Media Days wrapped up on Friday at the Grand Hyatt downtown. It was a bit of a mad dash Thursday afternoon. Tennessee was the last program in and out of there. Last day of Media Days, everybody's clearing out in the afternoon. There's maybe 2 to 3 broadcast tables left on Radio Row. Yet Tennessee players are roaming around and people are snagging whatever they can. And I got a chance, as did you, to catch up with Tennessee quarterback Joe Milton. And this was that conversation.
So, Joe, you're wrapping things up here at the Grand Hyatt. What's it been like? First SEC Media Days representing Tennessee. What's been that biggest takeaway?
It's been great, but it's another opportunity to let you know that it's all business, but at the same time, have fun. Respect everybody, respect every team, but the main goal is to go back to your team and let them know that we got a lot of work to do.
You're in a unique situation. We're obviously taking over as the starter in 2023, but to an extent, it kind of feels like that's already happened, right, with the way last season ended. What's this offseason been like for you, and just how much ground do you feel like you've already made up from the early part of your time in Tennessee in 2021 and the end of 2022?
It's been very motivational. A lot of guys have a lot of faith in me. I have a lot of faith in a lot of guys on the team as well, but at the same time, you have to be on the same page as those guys. Like, we all want to win. We all want to win at East. That's something Coach Hype preaches, so when you have that mindset and have those guys behind you ready to go to war with you, then it's good.
Is there anything specifically you can give me that you've been honing in on this offseason before the start of fall camp? Any point of your game mechanically going into 2023?
I work on it all, man. Just pretty much just helping my guys understand, like, what am I seeing? I think that was the next level to our game and our offense is letting the guys see what I see, understanding it, like teaching the guys my read of the offense. I think that's the most important thing.
How do you characterize your relationship with Joey Halsley and what that might look like? Obviously, quarterback's coach, now the offensive coordinator. What's that continuity feel like?
Oh, man, it's great. It's amazing. It's hard to explain it, man. Just how he carries himself, our relationship, our development of how we talk and how we understand. He understands ball so well to the point that when he look at me, I already know what he's talking about. And when I look at him, he already know what I'm mentioning or I'm talking about. So it's great, man. It's great.
You excited to be in Nashville about a month from now in Nissan Stadium?
Absolutely, man. 44 days.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you.
That's Tennessee quarterback Joe Milton from last Thursday at SEC Media Day. So Sammy Kincaid sitting down with us. You got a chance to chat with Joe right after that, literally right after I walked away. You walked up.
You didn't mention how
you
that
thought I
went
snaked
about.
your interview.
I mean, I wasn't the one that came up with those words. I think you need to talk to Brent. Brent was the one that said, did he just snake you on this?
Brent's an instigator. Brent wants the violence and the chaos, but no, Brent cannot. He can't do that to us because we're good. I didn't realize that I was quote unquote snaking you in that moment, but you got your chat with Joe. I got mine. Everybody wins. You guys played that on 3HL on Thursday, the day of, and I haven't gotten a chance to listen to your chat with Joe, but it is interesting going into this year the way that yes, he is, the starter for the quote-unquote first time replacing Hendon Hooker, but he's also not. And when he talks about getting that timing down, something that he's already been able to accomplish with Squirrel White and Brew McCoy and Ramel Keaton, and Deontay Thornton, the transfer from Oregon, comes in, that relationship is going to have to blossom, but he's ahead of schedule in a lot of respects compared to any other first-year starter in the SEC, whoever ends up starting at Alabama, Graham Mertz at Florida. So how does that, for you, impact the way that you measure expectations for Joe, especially early on in the 2023 season?
Well, like we've talked about before, I've worked with this coaching staff at
Yes.
their previous stop and talking to them about Joe and just the progression that he's had this offseason in comparison to how they've worked with him in the past. They've been talking about how he's taken leaps and bounds, has progressed way more than anything he had done in the past. So I have pretty high expectations. They say, of course, he has stuff he needs to work on, but just the progression, how he's been able to develop this offseason is incomparable to what he's done in the years past.
Fall camp right around the corner for Tennessee. You imagine they'll be kicking that off within the next week or so. I haven't seen an official date on when fall camp opens up in Knoxville, but 44 days. He knew it. He knew the countdown to that kickoff against UVA at Nissan Stadium.
No, that stuff I feel like is pretty big on you're focusing on whatever game is at task, and the players are gonna know how many days it is, and I feel like that's any coach is going to always have their team focus on that next game at hand, but they're really big on harping on numbers like that, and so I'm not surprised that Joe knew that. We didn't talk as much ball my interview with Joe. We talked a little bit more fun, talked about the quarterback series that I don't know if you ended up finishing it or if Buck even ever watched it. He gave such a hard time about
I
it.
fizzled out after 3 episodes. I kind of just you talking about that new quarterback
Yeah,
series on
on
Netflix.
Netflix, yeah.
Kirk Cousins, Marcus Mariota, Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
It's good. It's well done, but ultimately by episode 3, it just kind of became background noise, and it did not pull me back, I guess. But
well,
that's
the
not the same
quarterback
for
room,
everybody.
they watched it together with the coaches, and that was something that he said and now that we're here at Titans, it's really interesting because working for a team, that's what I loved working for a team, really showing those off the field stories so people can see what they do on the field or their respective playing surface is incredible, but they are people as well. And I love telling those off the field stories. And it was interesting hearing it from Joe that's what he picked up from the quarterback series is seeing how, they're real people and they go home to this. And it's in him as a player who's probably going to be at that next step. It was really interesting to hear that was his big takeaway from the show is seeing how these guys in the NFL, regular people as well.
We've talked about your time at UCF working with Josh Heupel. Last thing, Sammy, Joey Halsley, he was with Heupel at UCF, right? He's kind of slowly worked his way up under Josh Heupel, now the offensive coordinator. Was the quarterback's coach before, so we mentioned that continuity with Joe. What did you see from Joey during his time at UCF and those relationships, and what are your expectations of him in that new role this season?
Joey's had a very interesting career path. And there's a few coaches on that staff that had interesting career paths, but Joey in particular, he was at Oklahoma as a player whenever Hype was at Oklahoma, and they had such a strong bond there. I got really close with Joey and his wife, Kara. They were two of my dearest friends in Orlando, and they really talked about just that relationship that they had with Heupel. And he said, eventually I'm going to bring you, I'm going to help you out in the coaching, but things just didn't play out whenever Heupel went to Missouri, and Joey actually got into selling concrete.
Wow.
And so he got out of the business, but he always tried to have one foot in it. He never really let go of it. And he'll talk about this too. And then whenever it just was perfect timing at UCF, you had that analyst spot open up and Halsley came into it, and he just really took advantage of every single opportunity. He is a grinder, and he just has such a understanding of what Heupel's trying to do and knows that offense in and out. I'm very happy for him that he got promoted, but it's no surprise.
Talked with Jacob Warren at Media Days as well. We'll get to that interview down the road. But for right now, the Titans are about to step off the practice field for the first time in 2023 training camp. And cornerback Sean Murphy-Bunting will come over to the broadcast setup. Coming up next, it's the Buck Rising Show on 104.5 The Zone. It is 11:02. Good morning. I'm Lucas Panzica, and welcome to Titans Training Camp 2023. The team hitting the practice field for the first time this morning. Titans general manager Rand Carthon met with the media before practice, discussing the state of the roster heading into training camp.
I think we have a roster that will compete. Again, it all starts today, on the field, and something I kind of said from the get-go. We don't have to set the 53 until September.
Titans did make two moves this morning, signing defensive back A.J. Moore and waiving defensive tackle Curtis Brooks. Around the NFL, the L.A. Chargers and quarterback Justin Herbert have agreed to terms on a 5-year, $262.5 million extension that locks him in through the 2029 season. Over $218 million of it is in guaranteed money. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
You've got your hair. Second hour live from St. Thomas Sports Park. How we living? Welcome into 104.5 The Zone. We're live at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park. Titans training camp day one, officially in the books. They just wrapped up here on the practice field. We're going to have Sean Murphy-Bunting, new Titans corner, come over and kick it with us here in just a little bit. Your phone calls are always welcome. 615-737-1045 is the number if you want to join the show. Position battles that you're watching, guys that you're excited to see. I can tell you now that DeAndre Hopkins was in attendance for the first day of Titans training camp, and that was something that I know people were curious about. Mike Vrabel had said that they had planned to give him a couple of personal days as he kind of worked through the process of getting up here and getting his family settled, and certainly was good to see DeAndre Hopkins. You can see video of him out there on the social media channels right now. But with the level of competition out here on the practice field today, no pads on at today's practice, and so you're looking to try and assess the idea of offensive line, defensive line competitions, and kind of where these guys are at right now. It is more difficult to do without the pads on. But you heard Mike Vrabel say that when he's a part of good teams, the best teams that he has been a part of, understand how to practice without the pads on in a way that makes it not necessarily as critical to determine, all right, who are my starting offensive linemen going to be in this particular situation with this team while they work through non-padded practices at this point. But we're always happy to have people sit down here with us at Titans training camp, and looking forward to catching up with new Titans corner Sean Murphy-Bunting, who's here with us now on 104.5 The Zone. How we living, big dog?
Hey, man, I'm living good. How about yourself?
Man, it's good to be back out here. Good to see you guys back out on the practice field. How the vibes?
Vibes are always high, man.
Yeah?
Yes, sir. Always high.
So level of competition today between offense and defense. Did you like the work that you got in? Saw a lot of guys making plays on both sides of the ball.
Absolutely. I think every time you get a chance to come out here and, do what you love to do and just try to get better each and every day, man, it's always going to be fun. It's always going to be a blessing. And obviously going against the receivers that we have, and Traylon and Kyle and D-Hop, you're just getting better each day. So I'm just grateful and blessed for the opportunity to just continue to get better.
Yeah, the opportunities you mentioned to go up against those skill position players, now including DeAndre Hopkins, as you mentioned, who's out here for his first Titans practice. You've been with your teammates now for a little while longer, but it seems like everybody's starting to get acclimated at this point to one another. What was it like to go up against all of the skill position players, and then what did you kind of get off working off D-Hop today?
Oh, man, that's obviously a future Hall of Famer, so anytime, like I said, you get a chance to go against such high competition like that, a guy that's done it countless amount of times and proven amount of years, man, it's just blessed for the opportunity to just get better every day. It's going to be wins that he wins, it's going to be wins that I win. But at the end of the day, we're just competing to get better and get to that one goal.
Titans corner Sean Murphy-Bunting hanging out here with us live at training camp. So, I mean, you mentioned opportunities. There's opportunities all over the field for guys, whether you're coming in as a free agent acquisition, whether you're new to the team as a rookie, an undrafted dude, or guys still competing for spots as vets. What do you kind of make of the opportunity that's in front of you right now to kind of carve out a role for yourself in the secondary?
Yeah, man, just taking it day by day, just building on what I can build on and contributing to the team however I can, with the goal in mind of just, like I said, getting better. Every day I come out here to perfect my craft and master my craft, and whether that be, just coming out here backpedal, doing footwork drills, doing ball drills, doing everything I can to just become a better corner, but a better overall player for this team, and just trying to get better for myself.
You're somebody who understands what it takes to win a championship,
Yes,
and
sir.
that's something that not a lot of guys have an exposure to. Whether you mentioned DeAndre Hopkins. DeAndre Hopkins go to the Hall of Fame, hasn't had the opportunity to compete for a championship yet.
Right.
What kind of experiences can you impart upon teammates who maybe have been in the league longer than you, or kind of help them understand what it takes to accomplish the ultimate goal, seeing as you've been there yourself?
Really, man, it just takes, a team, believing in each other, believing in themselves, and just always working, never being content with where they are, but always trying to get to a higher platform. I think just by, the opportunity that I had to play in the Super Bowl and to go to the playoffs a few times, I know that, the season's going to have its rough points, but at the end of the day, you have to always fight through adversity and fight through it and battle through everything to kind of get to that point, and really just stay composed. A lot of the times guys can, whether it's get a ball caught on you, whether it's a touchdown scored, you can put your head down, you can mobile body, can do all these things, but really, man, just staying composed and just fighting through, like I said, adversity, and just being able to bounce back through everything you've been through or whatever you're going through, and just know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
What in life, like from a real life experience standpoint, kind of helped you develop that mentality? And it may have as much to do with football as it does to life outside the football field, but is there something that kind of helped you understand that mindset and gives you the ability to compartmentalize the way that you just described?
I've been dealing with it my whole life, really. I've always felt like I was a guy that many people say, like, overlooked or underrated or whatever you want to call it. But I took that role, man, and just kind of used it as motivation, used it as fuel, because I've always believed in myself. My family's always believed in me. My coaches have always believed in me. And I take that to heart, and I really just put my head down and work. I think there's many life experiences that can make somebody have that mentality or things like that. I've been through injuries. I've dealt with injuries. I dealt with being benched. I dealt with being put on second team, third team. I dealt with not playing after playing. So, I've been through so many things, I guess, throughout my career in the league, and I just don't really take anything for granted now. And so I just try to harp on the opportunities and the possibilities that you have in front of you to just kind of grow on them and just take them day by day.
Man, it sounds like you're in the right spot, because as long as I've been covering this team this will be my 7th season, this has been a franchise that's perpetually underrated or underappreciated in that same way as far as their competitiveness is concerned. And seems like, and I know you guys don't pay attention to things like us vultures are talking about on sports talk radio and stuff like that, but when you understand that kind of a mindset, and you're going to a place that has thrived upon it, how good of a marriage can you expect that to be coming into a place like this, understanding the coaching staff and understanding that they bring the same mentality that you do?
Yeah, and that was really a big reason on why I wanted to come here, and I wanted to play for the guys here and play with the guys here. I had a conversation with Braves before I signed, and I was able to really diagnose him, and he was able to diagnose me on the things that he harps on and the things that, I want to get better at, or my character is everything. And I just feel like, man, it was, like you said, a perfect situation, an opportunity to go somewhere where, you're getting work. You're going to work every day to get better. Nothing's handed to you. You got to earn everything you have. And so just having that opportunity and that mindset, it was just kind of a perfect situation for myself, and I wanted to put myself in that position.
It takes a real unique person to be able to diagnose Mike Vrabel. I've been trying to do it for 7 years. Every time I think I got him, he takes a swing at me.
No, I don't think I figured him out just yet, but I'm trying.
Titans corner Sean Murphy-Bunting hanging out here with us. We are live at Titans training camp, where they have just concluded at least the first day that we've been able to see you guys out here on the practice field. So now that you've had a little more time to kind of settle into Nashville, and I should have asked you, did you have a good summer?
I had a great summer.
Went right into football stuff.
I had a great summer, man. I was able to travel with my family. And that's really all I've ever asked for, really, to just be able to provide for them and travel for them and get them life experiences as well.
Where did you travel? Anywhere unique, anywhere cool, anywhere you haven't been?
Yeah, I traveled to a few places. I've been to a few of them, but I traveled to Mexico. I traveled to Mexico a few times on a cruise, and then I went back to Cancun. I went to Puerto Vallarta, Mazatlan, and Cabo.
Beautiful.
And then I went to London. Went to Vegas.
You get some advanced scouting on London?
Yeah, I had to go check the field out. No, I'm just kidding. And then I went to Vegas for a few days I went to the Summer League games, basketball, so I checked that out. yeah, I was in California pretty much training and chilling.
So how much? So I was going to ask you how much time you've had to acclimate to the city of Nashville. It doesn't sound like you've had much of an opportunity at all coming in here as a free agent, and then obviously going into summer break and coming right back for training camp.
Yeah, outside of being here for mini camp and OTAs, haven't really done too much. You know, I stay in the area that I live in pretty much, and I walk around somewhere, go to a restaurant or something, but I don't really do too much, so I haven't really experienced anything.
Well, as far as acclimating yourself to the community, I know that the Successful Jocks is a foundation that you've worked really hard to put together and to create as a successful opportunity for people who you're trying to benefit. Is that something you plan to carry over here in Nashville?
Absolutely. I actually yesterday, or I want to say Tuesday, I had an opportunity to do a roundtable with some kids out in Franklin. And so I was able to, have an open discussion with them, and just kind of me and my mom was kind of just talk about, our situations in our life, stories, and the things that we do, man. And I try to, just keep myself in the community, and I really just try to be a wholesome person at the end of the day.
Oh, your boss just came over here, which means I probably kept you too long.
Yeah, he thinks I'm a pretty boy. Try to tell him I just got swag. It's a difference.
That's okay. Now, I would think this man understands that the difference between those two things.
It's because he don't have no swag. You got to have swag to understand swag. But he got a little bit of swag.
We'll see how how General Manager Rand Carthon counters here in just a second.
Yes, sir.
Sean,
Yes, sir.
Appreciate you coming by the table, big dog. Continued health
you.
and success.
Thank you.
That's Titans Corner. Sean Murphy-Bunting sitting down with us here on 104.5 The Zone. We're going to keep it right here because Titans General Manager Rand Carthon is going to sit down with us as well. We'll get his assessment of how the team did on the first day that we've been able to see training camp practice, and understand where his mindset is right now. Sanitizes the headsets. What's going on, big dog? How we living?
Buck, how you doing, man?
Man, I'm chilling. I'm happy to be back out here. Just vibes are high.
Yeah, I feel the same way. You saw it. The energy was good. Guys were flying around. Guys were attentive, locked in, and focused, and that's all you can ask for.
I mean, you've had the opportunity of spring. You understand the mentality, or they understand the mentality that you and Mike expect them to have. But even on like the first day, how much room for error is there? Because we've talked to Vrabel about making new mistakes and things like that. Is there still the opportunity to make new mistakes, or is now the time? All right, you're here, you're competing for a roster spot, it's 100% full go all the time.
Oh, yeah. I mean, because it's like anything else. Guys are going to make mistakes, and I know our coaching staff, they do a really good job of, once those players make those mistakes, coaching them up, getting them ready for the next snap, and then making the adjustment and the change. And our guys have been good about, limiting the amount of the same mistakes. And, that's a testament to Mike and his staff, man. They really, drill these guys and spend a lot of good quality time. As much as we do physically, on the field and in the weight room, we have as equal, mental, in the way Mike structured his meetings and the time the guys get. So I'm very confident in our team and the guys' ability to learn and retain information.
Well, and that's that. I mean, there will be time for reflection, obviously, now where you're just getting ready to start a new season, in essence. But the job that you and your staff, and you brought up the entirety of the staff this morning to thank them for all the work that they've done in putting this year's team together so far, and obviously that work will continue through training camp and, of course, during the regular season as well. But for the work that you guys have been able to do, how would you describe the current team that practiced in front of us today to the audience?
I mean, it's a team full of guys with something to prove, whether it's the Arden Keys and Luke Giffords and, Aziz's, guys who haven't had the full opportunity to be a full-time starter, that want to prove to not only our fan base but the rest of the league that they are NFL starters. Or you got guys like, Derek and KB and Ryan, who people feel like, are on the other side of their career. And there have been, those three guys have been the hot topics of the offseason, and so they want to shut some people up too, and prove that they're still, viable NFL players. So we got a team full of guys with something to prove.
Titans General Manager Rand Carthon's hanging out here with us at Titans training camp. First practice that we've been able to come out here and watch has just concluded on the day. All right, so why Pretty Boy? Why for Sean Murphy-Bunting?
Nah, it's just, a little inside joke with us. And you probably could go back to when we first agreed to terms with him and we were bringing him in to sign, the way he jumps out, make sure his hair is neatly braided, all the time. He's got a fresh, outfit, and I consider him a member of the shoe police. You know,
shoe police.
Yeah, he's gonna check your shoes, see what your shoe game is looking like.
Damn, I'm glad mine are under the table.
And so, it's just another little way for me to rib at him and get him going. So I always have, and Aziz could probably tell you, I always have my shots that I could take with guys just to get under their skin and get them going a little bit.
No, but he's coming after your swag.
Hey man, that's what I'm an old guy, right? So he thinks that bothers me. So I'm gonna let him believe that. But I was joking with him in between one of the periods, and I was calling him a little pretty boy. He was like, "Hey man, you can't call me that."
Not out on the practice
And I was
field.
like,
It's too
"No,
serious.
you are a pretty boy, and until you prove otherwise, you're a little pretty boy." So he shouldn't have told me that gets under his skin. So I'm gonna get at him a little bit.
It is. With where things are, I mean, you mentioned you're an old guy. You're not that old. At this point, you're not. I mean, frankly, you're not that far removed from having played running back in the NFL, and that's obviously a point of discussion right now. Derrick Henry is under contract here, and we all know how much this franchise supports Derrick Henry and everything that he's done in years previous, and will do so as long as he's a member of this organization. But for you to see what's going on with the running backs right now, having played the position yourself, how do you, I guess, kind of process that?
Well, I mean, for us, it's an easy thing to process because we have our guy on the contract,
Sure.
so we don't have to deal with the issue.
But I guess the value of the position.
But the value of the position for me, and I feel like with Vin Marino and Chad, we'll always have a good idea of what the market dictates, right, and where we should come in, in that market, and that's for all positions. And I think the first thing that comes to mind is back in the day when there was no free agency, and the players fought to get free agency, and just kind of how things have evolved, at every position. And I think it's just, it's a part of the business of football. There are going to be ebbs and flows. There was a time where everybody wanted that high-priced running back, whether it was Marshall Faulk going, early or whomever. And then it was you couldn't take a running back, in the top 10 or in the first round even. And then you made the swing back. And so it's the ebbs and flows. And I just think we're on, one of those downsides. And I think, the players that everyone is talking about, all those guys are really good players. And I think, you get highly competitive men that are highly talented with something to prove. I think you're going to see a spike in production from the backs in our league this year, and I think from there their market will dictate that.
Well, and I almost feel like that conversation has been similar around like inside linebackers and safeties, where running backs may be more recognizable and obviously carry, I don't want to say carry more weight, but for the public to kind of see how they're expressing their dissatisfaction with their current situation. But I feel like that's been happening, as you said, it ebbs and flows year in and year out, and that's happened to several other positions who are still kind of in that spot.
Yeah, and I mean, you said the inside linebacker spot, and then, you see a guy like Fred Warner get paid. You see the guy in Baltimore gets paid. And so it's going to swing, back around. It's just, for the guys who have an issue with it now, it's just unfortunate. I mean, you think back to all the Hall of Fame guys. You think about, my former teammate Edgerrin James. You think about Marshall Faulk, and you ask those guys how much they made at the highest point of their career and where that number would fall in today's game. It's just what it is right now, and I'm sure they'll, on the other side of it, that number will improve to a place where everybody can be happy.
Titans General Manager Rand Carthon's here with us on 104.5 The Zone. You just let me know when you got a jet, by the way.
We can do it.
We can do it. So we out here watching quarterbacks, obviously, throughout the course of the day, and had the opportunity to talk to Vrabel about it on, I guess that would have been Tuesday, and he mentioned, we asked him specifically about Malik. And Mike mentioned, in his words, glaring improvement that Malik had made from last year when he was working with this team to what they saw in the spring and how they hope to have that carry over. What, from somebody who is tasked with scouting and evaluating these players, what kind of constitutes that glaring improvement?
I just think that, not having been here to know we've had the conversations, but not having seen the intricacies of where he was last year to where he is now. The one thing that I've commended Malik on is whatever Vrabes and, Coach London and P.O. and all the guys and Timmy, whatever these guys have coached him to do this offseason, he's done it. Whether it was the way he approaches things in the offseason to, corrections that he needs to make on the field. Malik has put in a lot of the time, and he's been here the whole offseason, which is all you really can ask for a young player.
Wide receiver wise, obviously Hopkins is a notable acquisition, but this is something that you guys have been kind of leaning on, the talent that you had in the building and how the expectations that you have of their development and how they can help and improve this football team. How much does that kind of alleviate the burden having DeAndre and some of the other veterans that you guys have either retained or brought in, alleviate the burden on the second-year players who were going to be tasked, one would think, with a lot of responsibility on this year's offense?
I mean, anytime you add a player like Hop, to your team, no matter where your group is, your group is going to improve, right? We have one of the more successful pass catchers in our league and probably in the history of the league on your team, so you can't help but improve. And like you said, I mean, it's going to help with Traylon's maturation. It's going to help with Kyle. And then you look at, some of our young guys, Colton Dow, that's coming up. And, Chris Moore has had a really good offseason. And, even guys like Racy, it's going to help because they have, a guy that they probably looked up to, coming into this league now on their team, a guy that they can pick his brain, a guy that's been an all-pro. He's been to all the levels that they're trying to work their way to, and now you have that in the room that you can pick, And then you take it a step further. Not only do you have Hop, but then your position coach is Rob Moore.
Right.
So now you got two guys who've done it at a high level in this league, which all these guys are trying to attain, and now you have that on a daily basis. I think it helps us tremendously.
The kind of, and not just Rob, but Rob in particular, just because you invoked his name, what kind of resources is somebody like that? Because Rob has been here the entire time that I've been covering them, and they seem to react and respond to him so well, and the base of knowledge that he brings, not just from what he was as a player, but how many years he's now been in the league as a coach.
Yeah, I mean, I think Rob played 12 years in the league, I want to say. Again, all those guys that he's coaching, they're trying to be 12-year vets, one day in the league. And again, it's hard to not take serious when you look at a guy that's telling you a specific way to do things and how you can help yourself win on a route or a release or at the catch point, who's done it. And then now with YouTube, you can go see him do it.
Right.
And so for him to be able to back up what he's teaching with his own tape, I mean, how can you go wrong?
No question. Titans general manager Ran Carthon, kind enough to give us some of his time out here on the practice field today. My dude, I appreciate you stopping by.
Anytime.
You can't say that because I'll send Kirby over to find you every once in a while.
Well, see, I think I was telling Mike Keith, I don't think I've sat down with anybody as much as I have with Mike Keith, and I think you're right there. Second, I think at every juncture that I've been here, we've had a sit down.
Yeah, one of us decidedly better at our jobs than the other. But
I think that remains to be seen.
Listen, I'm not going near the GOAT. Are you kidding me? I would not take a shot at Mike Keith ever in my life. Rand, I appreciate you, man. Thanks for stopping
anytime,
by.
Man. Appreciate it.
We'll take a quick break. Mike Vrabel will be at the podium. We'll hear from the Titans head coach coming up next.
Welcome back, the Buck Rising Show, live from Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park. Day one of practice in the books for training camp 2023. Kevin Byard has stepped off the podium. Obviously, some important questions there. We'll hear from KB later, but for the moment, quarterback Ryan Tannehill speaking with the media. We go to that live here on 104.5 The Zone.
A long way to go, but starting to build that relationship day one.
Ryan, I guess during his visit, I guess it was a month ago, what was the process waiting to see where he was going to end up, and how did you find out he was coming aboard?
Yeah, it was a waiting game, just like it was for everybody. Had some good time together a month ago or whatever it was, and then just kind of waited through the process, communicated with him. Every so often I'd check in, hey, what are we thinking, how we looking, where things at, and was excited to get that call from Vrabel to let me know that it was going to happen. So definitely, it was a wait and see game, but excited to have him on board.
What does he add, Ryan, that you guys didn't previously have in that?
Do what?
What does he add that you guys didn't previously have in that?
I think he adds a veteran presence who's played at a high level for a long time. He's guys played a lot of football, been successful, his whole career. Obviously, unbelievable hands, catch radius. I think understanding of how to get himself open versus different coverages, different looks. So it gives that veteran guy who's been there and done that to lead that room.
I know you trust guys to go get it. Is he maybe as trustworthy a guy as there is in terms of contested catches and ability to go into small windows and protect you?
Yeah, no question. I mean, you've seen it over the years as, doesn't look like he's open, but he's able to come down with the football time and time again. Just being able to build that trust here, through the training camp, see where I can put the ball, where he can go get it, and where he likes it, that type of thing. So, excited to go to work and keep building on what we started today.
With that style of play and the way he specializes in it, does it take a little bit more development of that trust? Does it require more trust?
Yeah, I mean, trust is a big part of playing the quarterback position. Whether it's a guy like D-Hop or anybody else. You have to play with trust in order to make plays, and the more trust you have, ultimately the more plays you make. So, got to start developing that trust. We've already been talking through a lot of the concepts and how I see things and how we expect the routes to be run. So, it's going to be a growing process. We're going to have to put a lot of work in, a lot of time in, but excited to start that process.
Right, when it's veteran on veteran, does it help accelerate all that whole process stuff too?
I think so. I think he knows I've seen a lot of football. He's seen a lot of football. Now it's just about getting on the same page and seeing it through the same set of eyes in this offense, right? He's been in a version of this before. He's been in probably several offenses at this point, but just making sure we're seeing it the same way.
You mentioned some of the things, he said you have to do things off the field in order to develop that relationship. From your perspective, what's an example of some of the off the field things that you could do?
Be careful now. I'll come back and get you. Piss him off. Yeah, it's just time, right? You're spending time being able to go over the offense, go over things, go over football things off the field. You can't hit everything on the field. You're not going to get a rep of everything, every coverage, every look. So being able to talk through those things in the meeting room, after practice, before practice, and then just spending time together, getting to know each other, getting to just develop that relationship.
What Kevin did to help bring DeAndre in here and reworking his deal, how much does that resonate in the locker room?
Well, it's huge. Obviously adding a guy like DeAndre to this team is going to help us. So, thankful that we were able to get done, and I think Kevin doing what he did was a part of that. So, obviously, Kevin has been a big part of this team since I've been here. Played as well as any safety in the league over that time period. So, excited to have Kevin, and thankful that they were able to work it out.
What's your challenge, I guess, to your teammates maybe as you kick off training camp, and what's important to remember as you go through this 6-week build-up before the season starts?
Yeah, take advantage of every opportunity we get. Take advantage every day. It's a grind. There's highs, there's lows during training camp. We got to stay the course. Stay the course. Come out with a focus each and every day. Have something to focus on. Get better each and every day. Whether it's timing on a 3-step footwork, or for a receiver, being able to plan off the inside foot on an outbreak, or whatever the case may be. Just having something. You can't focus on everything every single day, right? But being able to focus on something every single day, you start stacking those things together. You're growing as a person, you're growing as a player, And then you start building the team, right? We start all doing that together. We're pushing each other. We're going through a tough thing together, battling through the highs, battling through the lows, and just starting to gel as a team. Those are some things you want to accomplish during this time.
Training camp, when you go through it as many times as you have, is probably old hat, but how much of a challenge is it with a new offense with Tim Kelly's brought in and with a completely overhauled offensive line to work behind?
Training camp's tough, but training camp is a crucial time of the year to come out and grow as a player and to grow as a team. Individually, we have to all focus on different things, like I said, that we want to get better at. Then we have to grow as a team. We have to start building that trust, that chemistry, within the offensive line. Those guys trusting each other on their combo blocks, in the pass protection. Quarterbacks trusting the offensive line in the pocket. Quarterbacks trusting receivers. Receivers trusting the quarterback that the ball is going to be in the right spot. So it all works together, and it all takes time and repetition to do that. So the fact that we have time is great, but we have to take advantage of the time we have.
You haven't had much time to work with Jamarco Jones in the past. Seeing him out there on your right side just for a couple of days, you have an initial feeling for him. And did you get any kind of feel for him last year, being around him at all, or was it a complete wash?
I mean, it's not a wash. I got to know him a little bit. Obviously excited to have him back. He went through a lot of adversity last year with his injury, the ups and the downs with that, and the repeats, and everything he dealt with was tough. And he felt for the guy. Just seeing him in there working his tail off on a daily basis in the training room, rehabbing, and then having everything he had to deal with. So you feel for that, but excited to have him back out there. Seeing him grow just in the first couple of days. He was here early with us, so was able to see some reps and see him grow just in the first few days of being out there. So done some good things so far. Excited to have him back out there, and excited for what he can do.
You talked about trust. The other day about how DeAndre is a guy who sometimes doesn't run the route exactly the way it's drawn up in a playbook. Is that an example of the relationship that you guys have to form so you can kind of figure out what you might be doing?
Yeah, no question. You have a veteran guy who's, like I said, able to get himself open in different situations. So just building that trust on knowing, all right, when he does have the freedom to create on his own, and then when, all right, I'm expecting you in this window, in this timing, right? So it's a balance of being able to use his playmaking ability and spatial awareness and all those types of things, but then also how does it fit within the picture as a whole, right? So we're going to be working through that, throughout training camp, but no doubt excited to have his playmaking ability as a part of our offense.
When you talk about trust, how much more trust?
That is Titans quarterback Ryan Tannehill meeting with the media after practice on day number 1 of Titans training camp. When we come back, we'll hear from head coach Mike Vrabel at the podium right here, live from Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park on 104.5 The Zone. Titans head coach Mike Vrabel has just stepped up to the podium after practice number 1 of training camp 2023. We go to it live here on 104.5 The Zone.
That, just like everybody else that we had out there, the 85 or so guys else that were out there. So, that's where these guys are going to continue to build chemistry in all 3 phases, and quarterbacks, that relationship and understanding with the receivers is, important. So when he's back here in a day or so, then we'll be able to continue to work with him.
With Ryan going into the final year of his deal, his veteran experience and focus, do you like the way that he can lead this offense in this year with all the pieces and all the changes that have been made around him?
Sure. I mean, that's the quarterback's job, is to be an extension of the coaching staff and to carry that message and the details and make sure that everybody's lined up. And the operation, it starts with the quarterback and their command, and that's nothing new for Ryan. So we just have to make sure that he's doing that, and that Malik and Will are doing that. And saw instances of that where maybe guys had to go in there and play a different position, and he lined them up, moved them in. Whether, I don't know, maybe that was Malik or whoever it was did that. So those are the things that we need.
Who'd your off-season award winners end up being, and how important is for those guys to kind of build on that momentum in camp?
So offensively, Thomas Odukoya made great strides, effort, consistency, and improvement. Put a lot of time in, and starting out with that international program, and it's been fantastic for us, and he's improved. So he was one of them. Ryan was one of them. I would say that Malik was very, very close. Can only give so many of them, but outstanding effort and improvement from him in conditioning and the weight room and the field and just the package. And then the last one offensively was Corey Levin. Put a lot of time in and did a nice job defensively. Jaden Peavy, a young player that noticeably different. And it was good to see that carry over to conditioning test and today, what he did in the spring. Dr. Gibby, and then Arden Key.
How proud are you of Malik, of the progress that he's made?
Well, I think when you coach players and they ask for feedback, and again, I really, you can learn a lot from great coaches, and for me to not think that Nick Saban isn't one of the best coaches that ever wore a whistle is ridiculous. And so he says something all the time that really average players want to be left alone, and good players want to be coached, and great players want to be told the truth. And I think it's like, man, if we can just live in that world where everybody just, hey, what was this? What is this? What else do I need? What do I need to do to improve? Where do I stand? And they can seek the truth. They can handle the truth. And then, we always want to tell the truth. And so that's what we did the entire offseason. We'll continue to do that. And Malik took those things, and just his appearance, his attitude, smiling, and just playing football. So, and again, playing quarterback in this league as a young player is something very different. And so I think that experience at offseason has helped him, and then we'll continue to work with him and improve.
Like from the start of the offseason workouts through now and then into the first game, how much differently have you structured anything because to try to limit injuries? Have you made, how many changes did you make because of that?
Did we miss you the other day, Gentry? Maybe so. Pretty sure. So again, last year we tried to do that, and we've always tried to go 2-on and try to pull back on that third day, where maybe historically or some of the data would tell you that the volume's getting too high. And we started out in a jog through last year, and then looking at the data, it was like hard to keep the receivers from running a certain mile per hour. So we've just adjusted those to being walkthroughs. We're still going to work. We're still going to practice. We're going to still, hold up to our standards of what we feel like is important. But we're going to try to, on that third day, continue with our installation, but still come out here in the morning or whatever time at 10 and walk through the installation. I mean, we can't just take a day off. We have to continue with the installation and make sure that we're progressing on into third down and red zone and 2-minute. But that'll be a little different in that regard, just the volume on that third day.
What attracted you to Jim Marco when you made your initial connection way back when you were recruiting? And what do you think of him now, having fought through what he fought through last year and being in position to maybe go take the job?
Well, just an athlete, watched him play basketball in high school, got to know him and his mom. Then he came to Ohio State. I went to Houston. And again, you make a lot of connections and relationships in life and certainly in coaching and recruiting. So, that was another example of that. I would say in the free agent process, there was some versatility. Played all across the front for Seattle. And then, like you alluded to, had a setback, had an injury, tried to come back, and it wasn't going to be possible. And so now he's, going to try to take advantage of the opportunity that he has.
At that same position, John Ojukwu, or as you call him, OJ.
OJ, it's a hell of a lot easier.
Yeah, seriously. But what has he done? Coming in as a rookie, undrafted free agent, to earn some of the significant reps.
He was probably in the 5 years, or now going on 6, going through that post-draft process of being excited, knew how we played, knew what our demeanor wanted it to be, has come in, he's learned, he's a smart player, he's got good length, and so he shows up, and by being out there every day, we tell him that they can do 3 things. They can improve, they can take advantage of an opportunity if it's there, and then they can be evaluated. So that's where he's at, just getting started.
You talked about Jack Gibbons.
The last 2 years with guys. How refreshing is it for you to have a healthy 90 Harold?
It's the first day. Give it a week, Corey.
Well, they're going to get hurt, but you got to.
If they're all out there, Corey, on paper, you get excited, but we'll make sure that everybody that's out there and the guys that we end up with on the final roster, you have to. You got to have a pair and a spare at every position, and trying to find guys that play with speed, violence, and versatility. And part of that versatility is going and playing another position, taking a look at some of these inside linebackers that can help us out at Sam or on the edge, and just starting to build a roster and form a team. So, but for those guys, worked extremely hard. To get back out there and never having had a knee surgery or gone through that. There's got to be a mental aspect to it. There's got to be one, excitement, but 2, there's got to be some hurdles that you get over that maybe the apprehension and didn't look like it, anything affected him, and Harold worked extremely hard to make sure that he was back out there.
You talked about Jack Gibbons. You talked about Jack Gibbons and being one of the off-season award winners. Last year he went from practice squad and he had the green dot at the end of the year. What's kind of been the continued acceleration that he's done?
I just think he's a tall, linear, lengthy player, and I think he worked extremely hard to improve his lower body strength. Was running just as well, was running better than he ran last year, just from a tracking standpoint. Not that that's the end-all, be-all, but he knows what to do. He communicates. He's a good communicator, and he's where he's supposed to be. Sorry, Kayla.
No, you're fine. Right tackle position again. Obviously, you're seeing a little bit of Jalen Duncan in there, and I guess the knock on him coming out of the draft was maybe just a little bit more of that mean side of him. How do you kind of look at this guy and what he needs to continue to do to have a chance to win that position?
Jalen made a great impression on us at his visit. Jalen's a talented player. Jalen's a smart player. He can handle different installations and things, and just his focus is continuing to be there. And really, our conversations are a lot of the times personal, but I'll tell you this, he just has to realize how good he can be, not get frustrated by making mistakes. We're gonna coach mistakes. Hopefully we're not coaching the same ones over and over again, but just making sure that effort there and the finish is there.
Mike, how have you seen Traylon and Chick specifically, their mentalities maybe elevate to
the level of expectations you're going to have for them this season. They're going to be a big part of your offense, obviously.
Yeah, I think there's a confidence level that goes up when you string plays together or string days together, or that has to happen. When you're trying to get open in this league and you're trying to catch the football, there's got to be a confidence level. I think that's high for them physically. I think that they're young players who put good work in throughout the off season. Both of those guys did, and again, just getting started, but trying to find pieces where those guys can help us and get the ball in their hands.
Mike, I know you spoke on this earlier, but how important is this ramp-up period before next week when you get the pads on and really get going?
Well, you can't waste the days. You have to make sure that there's an acclimation. Right? You have to get out there and you have to figure out what's important and the individual and making sure that you're getting a little bit of team in, and then we'll continue to ramp it up. But you have to be able to practice with speed. You have to be able to take care of each other, stay off the ground, stay away from the quarterback, all those things without pads. We have to be able to run the football without pads on in practice so that we can get work and work our offense and all those things that come along with it. So, I've said this ad nauseum, that great teams know how to practice. They can practice with speed without pads on. You put pads on, guys are still staying up, guys aren't flopping around. So we got off to a good start. We'll just have to keep stringing days together.
Are your vets in the hotel?
Our vets, there are some vets that are in the hotel.
Their option or your option?
Optional.
Option.
Is Monday the first day with the pads, Coach?
I think so.
The decision to
I don't know. It doesn't. I'm not being funny, Joe. I'm focused on tomorrow and the meetings at 1:00.
The decision to bring A.J. Moore back, just what did you like about him in the limited time before the injury last year? And
great energy, great spirit. Could be a disruptive, productive, special teams player. We got to find gunners. We think we've got a punter that's going to carry the football down the field. And so this isn't 42 yards and 42 by 42. We got to have some guys that can beat some double teams. And, AJ did make an impression on us. And it was tragic that he got hurt as early as he did last year. And he worked hard. He worked extremely hard. He came back, and he's excited for the opportunity. And we're excited to give it to him.
You mentioned the good start and the energy today. Anything else specifically that stood out to you, day one?
I look at operation, Joe. I look at demeanor, and maybe there's some good plays, there's some bad plays, whatever. It's one side's going to have a good play, one side's going to have a bad play. I just look at overall tempo of practice, the urgency, going from drill to drill, special teams to Indy and into 7-on-7 and group, and being able to string those together and not have a lull. And I felt like we carried through most of the day.
Thanks, Mike.
That is Titans head coach Mike Vrabel at the podium after practice here at Titans training camp. We'll break it down when we come back and hear from Kevin Byard, asked about the restructure, the pay cut that he took for 2023, making room for DeAndre Hopkins on 104.5 The Zone.
The Gambling Clinic is here to help you if you or somebody you love has been experiencing issues caused by sports gambling. Now, the vast majority of people gamble for fun without any problems, but about 5% of people report spending too much money on gambling, getting into arguments at home because of it, and the Gambling Clinic is here to help you if you are experiencing any of those situations. It was established in 1999 by Dr. James Whalen and his staff at the University of Memphis, and the goal is to complete 8 to 10 weekly individual sessions with someone trained to help with gambling problems and gambling addiction. They're not there to discourage you from gambling because, like I said, the vast majority of people gamble without problems. But if you are somebody who experiences issues, they want to give you the tools and help you gain capacity to be able to identify those problem areas for you if you are participating in gambling. For more information, go to thegamblingclinic.com. That's thegamblingclinic.com. This project is funded by the Tennessee Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services.
Yeah.
It is 12:04. Good afternoon. I'm Lucas Panzica. The Titans are off the practice field for the first time in training camp 2023. Quarterback Ryan Tannehill met with the media post-practice discussing what new wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins brings to the wide receiver room.
I think he adds a veteran presence who's played at a high level for a long time. He's these guys play a lot of football, been successful, his whole career. Obviously, unbelievable hands, catch radius. I think understanding of how to get himself open versus different coverages, different looks. So it gives that veteran guy who's been there and done that to lead that room.
Around the NFL, the LA Chargers and quarterback Justin Herbert have agreed to terms on a 5-year mega deal worth $262.5 million, an extension that locks him in through the 2029 season, over $218 million of it in guaranteed money. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
When he says you're Hour number 3, live and in person here from St. Thomas Sports Park. Been a fun day. Heard from all kinds of different people associated with your favorite local professional football team. And we're not done. Like I said, a cast of thousands out here at St. Thomas Sports Park, and not just Kirby, surrounded by cigarettes and Pepsi. That laugh you hear is Kayla Anderson of Ramon, Kayla, and Will, 6 to 10 a.m.
I haven't seen a Pepsi yet.
Very same radio station. Don't say that. He'll send me on a Pepsi run.
I know, right?
Every time I show up, you guys, with something that we're doing one of these remote situations for, and you guys are there too, he'll text me on my way. We're scootering from the radio station to SEC Media Days last week, me and Lucas. And he texts me and he sends me a picture of a pack of Pall Malls.
I heard that.
Emergency.
Yes.
He says, do you want to defend yourself or are you too busy chatting?
What
He's
the
not
heck
listening
happened?
to me at
He
all.
just ran out of cigs?
He ran out of cigs. He's run out of Pepsi. He's slacking at this stage. It's probably a product of old age. We made jokes the other day in our group text that he might just potentially expire at any point in front of us.
Yeah.
So we have to.
Like a Pepsi. Non-carbonation.
Yeah.
Kirby needs a number 2.
Just fizzle on out. Oh, you. The cigarettes help with that. You heard, didn't you?
You need a number 2, a right-hand man.
I saw it. Yeah, he turned around right away.
Nobody can hear you. Nobody can hear you. Don't talk to me when your microphone's not on.
A tradition like no other.
It is one of the most infuriating things. I love you to death. There's nobody at this radio station I trust more than you, Kirby, to have my well-being at top of mind, and yet you still persist in talking to me without a microphone.
Yet I never want him to stop.
Are you on the phone right now?
Well, I'm getting a call from the Grand Prix folks.
Oh, look
that's
at
important.
double duty
Tony.
here.
Hold on.
I'm live on air, Tony. Hold on.
Charlie,
Sorry,
don't worry about my intake. I've already taken care of that. Everywhere we go, everywhere I am, I have a location where I can go.
Look at that.
Yeah, that's fine. It's just
fill me in
lately
on the
you're
break.
slacking as far as your supplies. You're texting me when I'm on the way to work, asking me for cigarettes.
After 70
That's
hours being
fantastic.
awake,
No, it's
I
not
forgot,
fantastic.
but yeah.
That's the best clip ever.
Damn that clip.
Maybe an understudy. Maybe a Traylon Burks to your DeAndre
We've tried
Hopkins.
that, and every time they think it's glorious, they want to do the gig until we're going to do a morning show, and they go, "You want me to meet you at what time?
And where?"
And that ends it right then. It's like they're not willing to get up and be somewhere at 4 a.m.
I am, Kirby. What are you talking about?
Well, you're sitting. Okay.
You're not schlepping around equipment.
Oh, that's true.
When you're on at 6.
I was on time, though, right?
Yeah.
On my
But when
remotes?
you're on at 6, I'm up at 2.
Well, that's...
And if it's outside of the city, maybe 1.
Literally,
I don't know when
nobody
you
else
sleep.
is asking you to be up at 1 in the morning. That's entirely of your own volition.
Well, if I've got to go to Dixon, anyway, that's neither here nor there. I do have things have to be done.
Okay,
but the romance falls off really fast when they hear that.
Your person is still on hold if you would like to take your
There we
phone
go.
call and allow
No, he
us
hung
to.
up.
Yeah, I don't blame him.
Move.
He can just turn on his radio and listen.
Yeah, he's a good guy. But this is what we're dealing with a week from Friday, so I got to take care of this.
Excellent. Can't wait for more
baby.
logistical
We'll
hurdles.
be there.
Don't wave
Yeah.
your cell phone at me.
Talk up camp, fellas.
I'm on
Ma'am.
Kayla is going to be out here every day that there is training camp in the 9 o'clock hour, as they will be on the field most days At about 9:30 is when things get underway. What did you feel like you learned from the first day of camp?
Yeah, I'm a little surprised when DeAndre Hopkins was out there, not for the fact that he doesn't practice, because that's obviously something that's been blown out of proportion.
Allegedly.
But, Mike Vrabel did say that he was going to miss some days early on. That didn't necessarily mean today. So he was out there day one, and I think I noticed with him and Ryan just the immediate kind of going to D-Hop. The connection, obviously, that's got to build over time, but it looked like in the few minutes we were able to tape things and watch things that they kind of had a little bit of a connection early on.
No,
so
early
that's
and
not
often,
bad
for sure. Early
right?
and often, and that's wouldn't you? This is like the hell have I been throwing to the past 2 years, 3 years essentially. Now I have somebody who's literally, if he's covered, he's open.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was surprising to see him, I guess, go through almost the entirety of the practice. I saw them take him off a little early, and I think that was just to avoid us, probably, just from mobbing him as he came off the practice field from his first day. But certainly a lot more mouths to feed in this offense right now. Like, Kayla, I've been talking about this, and I don't know what the conversation's been like for y'all in the mornings, but the idea that they continue to show us that they're investing more in the idea of their passing game, but still there are doubts as to whether they will actually execute that when the time comes in season. Obviously, we're quite some time away from a game, although not as far as you think.
Yeah.
Are you as skeptical as most people seem to be about, all right, they've done all these things. They've hired Tim Kelly. They've brought in DeAndre Hopkins. They've got an interesting collection of skill position players that's probably unproven. Are we willing to finally grant them the benefit of the doubt to say, okay, they're acknowledging that they have as big a problem as we've said they've had?
I think it's natural for Titans fans to not give them the benefit of the doubt because they've seen a lot more of this being based around the run game for years and years and years, right? But I think that I personally, from what I've seen them do in the ads that they've made with Tim Kelly and just everything we get out nugget-wise of these players bit by bit, they're not going to tell us a lot at once. Nope. But if you kind of start to put the pieces together, it does seem like this is going to be a little different of an offense that is going to maybe favor some of these guys on the outside, these wide receivers, more than they have in the past under a Todd Downing type of offense, which didn't really provide much of anything. But I also say if you don't take advantage of getting a guy like D-Hop and having some of these weapons now, like a Chig, who's so versatile, then that's their fault if they can't utilize that and try to go a little bit away from the run game. And I'm not saying go away from it. It's still part of their game. D-Hop said it himself.
Yeah.
It's kind of the reason why he liked it here, too, because he knew they had a solid back in Derrick Henry who could help the other guys out. So I think it's going to be different. I certainly do. Now, to what degree, I'm not quite sure.
Sure.
And how it's executed, I'm not quite sure, but that's what we're all hoping.
Hasn't there been an acknowledgement of that? Mike Vrabel telling Ed Werder in Kansas City last year, who the bleep are we going to throw it to? Going out and getting DeAndre Hopkins is an acknowledgement that this wide receiver core is not enough in the here and now. Like the acknowledgments have been there.
Yeah.
Like it's fair to question the reliance on Derrick Henry. What's that exactly going to look like under Tim Kelly? But to say that there hasn't been an acknowledgement that it's just not good enough, to me, is just false.
Well, a tweet that was a quote from Ed Werder the one time in the middle of the season was, I think, an acknowledgement, yes. But when consistently we would ask them about this and, how secure they were in the DeAndre Hopkins acquisition, nobody knows but them, right? Like, to an extent, they are taking a gamble and coming away from that NFL draft, 6 players on offense that they selected, the wide receiver not until the 7th round, and just being like, hey, it's good enough for Monday, chill. And, again, we don't know how secure they were at the time about DeAndre Hopkins, about his potential release, about potential trade acquisitions. I know he brought it up with us yesterday in the press conference, the idea that Tennessee was one of the places that he had circled when he thought he might be up for trade. But I think in a meaningful way, Lucas, other than offhanded Mike Vrabel type of comments, that's kind of the way that I'm seeing this offseason be a widespread acknowledgement that something about the passing game needs to change other than, all right, it's Nick Westbrook-Akina and Chris Conley against the Chiefs on Sunday Night Football.
To me, the over-reliance on
you laugh. I was there. I saw that.
I know.
Doink.
The first and second down runs over and over and over to Derrick Henry was an acknowledgement in and of itself that what was surrounded by Ryan.
What else do you want me to do?
They not giving those guys the football, not giving them the opportunities was an acknowledgement to me that this is not good enough to win with right now. We'll do what we can with what we have, and what we have is Derrick Henry behind a terrible offensive line, and they ran that into the ground yesterday. But all of that, to me, was an acknowledgement.
Kayla Anderson's hanging out here with us on 104.5 The Zone. Of course, you can hear her in the mornings with Ramon and Will and Robert. Are you enjoying the Robert experience?
Burt, I gotta love me some Burt. You know I call him Burt Hawkinson.
Why?
You know where I'm getting this
No,
from.
I have no idea. You can't make references around me. I won't get them.
So TJ Hawkinson,
Mhm.
if you really look at them, minus like Burt's the out of shape one. TJ Hawkinson
Whoa.
obviously played. Oh, I've said it to his face.
Assault.
No, I've said it to his face. He definitely acknowledges it.
Was that controversial to you?
Yeah.
No, it just seems a bit mean.
No, it's not mean. He gets it. He's not an NFL player. You know,
Okay.
Burt admits like he likes pizza and all that stuff. So if you look at them, especially when they have the bun pulled back and you know they've had the round glasses on at times, they look very similar.
Really? Can
in
you pull
a
up
weird,
for me,
weird way?
Lucas, on Google right now? I'd like a live reaction here.
Yeah,
on
and if you
to
can
what
look
TJ
up-
Hawkinson. Oh my God! That's
Yes,
skinny
I
Robert
told
Walsh.
you. Yeah.
No, but he's got too many teeth.
Well, true.
That smile is too full.
But that's not a bad.
Kirby, you're
especially
right in the way of the damn camera. Get out of here.
When the bun is pulled back and the glasses are on, I'm
Kirby
telling
agrees.
you guys,
That is,
it's Burt.
There's entirely too many teeth for that.
Let's
there
knock
it
a
is.
couple out.
There it is. All he has
Isn't
to
that
do is
great?
grow the beard out a little bit.
Yeah, I love
You're right.
it.
He looks more well kept.
Sure.
Than our dearly beloved Robert Walsh, who apparently has just decided that he's not going to work anymore. He's not around here anymore.
he got sick. I think from your birthday 6-day extravaganza.
That's Burt.
Which I'm sad I didn't come.
Will came
come
out.
and say hi. Well,
Ramon came out.
I was in Savannah, doing my own partying
Well,
with the in-laws.
okay, that sounds a little more adult than the celebrations that were had over the course of this weekend. I don't think he can't pin that on me. It's not my fault that he's not showing up to
Okay.
work. It's
Thought
Wednesdays
I'd try.
Wednesday for God's sakes. Figure it out. But we're happy that you took him off our hands. Lucas is not because he's lonely back there by himself, and I won't let him in the other room with me.
Mean.
So. Oh, yeah, mean.
I'll find my way.
Mean. More and more every day. Kayla Anderson, 6 to 10. Ramon, Kayla, and Will is the show. Y'all have an event coming up with the Nashville Sounds, right?
Yeah, we do. Next Wednesday. Supposedly Will and I are both throwing out the first pitch.
What?
I am nervous as hell.
First pitch?
Because I don't know why. They just asked us both, so I don't
All right.
know how that works, y'all. I guess you get two catchers. You've seen it before. At times they've thrown out first
You
pitches.
can't
There's
ask us.
two
We
of
don't
them.
watch baseball.
Oh, you don't. I know you hate baseball. But back in my pitching days in softball, the underhand game was good.
Are you going to go underhand? Whip it
No,
underhand?
I'm not going underhand. I'm not embarrassing myself
The
like that.
disgust in this woman's face, like she smelled
It's like
something
a granny
bad.
shot. I'm not taking a granny shot.
I bet the velocity that you would get on it would be more impressive than
It
any
would.
of our overhand pitches.
It might be.
Can you throw one overhand and the other underhand?
I might be able to do that. I'm
What-
going to work on that.
what are you
Actually,
saying in
I'm
our
gonna
ear?
Practice.
He's doing his job.
Oh, he's saying break.
Oh, because I'm
this-
not. It's fine. It's
He's
very
doing his
distracting.
job better than you are at this moment.
That could be said of many people at many different points on this radio show. Thank you for stopping by.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
You can hear her tomorrow morning. She'll be out here at practice with us on Friday. Ramon, Kayla, and Will is the show. Coming up next, we'll get into more training camp observations. You'll hear from Kevin Byard on why he felt it necessary to move the money around in his contract to make room for his newest teammate, DeAndre Hopkins. Live from training camp, I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. The Music City Grand Prix, the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix, is the place that you need to be. Kirby is here fielding calls from them right now because we're very excited to be out there next week, August 4th through the 6th. It is going to take over the streets of downtown Nashville. Indy cars racing around the footprint of Nissan Stadium, 200 miles an hour. But it's not just about the racing, it's about all the different cool events that go on as a part of the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix. 3 days of incredible concerts. Flo Rida is headlining. I know Lucas is fired up about that, to be in Flo Rida's house. We will also have all kinds of family fun zone opportunities for kids of all ages to enjoy what is an incredible 3-day festival centered around the NTT IndyCar Series. We're going to be hanging out in the Turn 9 Club. You can get your 1-day passes, 3-day passes, or premium hospitality to come hang out in the Turn 9 Club, where there's free food from Poncho and Lefties, Edley's Barbecue, free beer and wine, and non-alcoholic beverages, all included with your ticket purchase. Just go to MusicCityGP.com. Welcome back live from Titans training camp. Hanging out for a couple more segments here. 615-737-1045 if you want to jump in on the phone lines. If you want to react to anything that you heard from Rand Carthon, Sean Murphy-Bunting. Who else did we hear from on the show today? Kevin Byard.
Ryan Tannehill. We didn't carry any of Byard. We caught Tannehill and we caught Vrabel. But some interesting stuff with Byard.
Yes, and because the reason that the biggest reason, should I say it's the biggest reason that DeAndre Hopkins is here? A big reason why DeAndre Hopkins is here is because Kevin Byard, who declined the initial pay cut, decided to ultimately take a pay cut and reconfigure, we'll call it, instead of a restructure, his contract in a way that makes it more incentive-based than the previous base salary that he stood to make. So Kevin Byard was asked about why he felt it was necessary to do this after initially telling the organization, and Rand Carthon as a first-year general manager, you know what, no, I don't think my production is such that I should take a pay cut. This was Kevin Byard at the podium earlier.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's all about winning ball games. And you kind of understand it as you get older as a player, the business side of football, to be able to build a championship roster. And that's what it's about here. It's about winning ball games. It's not about, at times it's time to be selfish, but at the end of the day, it's about building a team. And I'm a team leader, and I want to win first and foremost. I've said this multiple times. I want to help bring a championship to Nashville, and that's what we plan on doing. This isn't right.
So that's Kevin Byard saying, it's a little. There's a lot of wind at the
wind and jugs machines
at the the jugs machine. Oh, that's right. The jugs machine is very close to the press conference, and lawnmowers, my age-old nemesis. But Kevin Byard saying, there is a time to be selfish. Now is not the time. Now is the time to focus on putting together the most competitive football team possible. And so, by that nature, he has chosen to do the contract in a way that allows them to acquire the services of DeAndre Hopkins. That's not normal. So, when Kevin Byard does that, and you try and, because this has been a thing for several different players. There's always one player every year who people are like, oh, you should just take a pay cut. You should take less money to build a better team. Tom Brady is the age-old example of this, right, with the Patriots. And then at a certain point, people started to ignore, well, Tom is still getting his money. It's just in the way that they're configuring the contract. And two, also, Tom felt at a certain point that if he was going to continue to take less money, they were going to need to build a more competitive team around him, which was one of the biggest reasons he left New England for Tampa. Kevin Byard doing this is a much different situation than the vast majority of NFL football players or professional athletes would be willing to reconfigure their contract that way.
Makes me wonder what the initial ask was, what the pay cut that he turned down was.
Well, they probably just tried to give him less money as opposed to saying, okay, you can earn still up to this with the incentives, but we're going to take your base salary down to give us a little, just so we can reconfigure the money. Now, the question would become, okay, did you not have a backup option? And this maybe was the backup option. I don't know how quickly or how much time passed between the initial conversation, which was reported around, I want to say, the Combine? It was pre-draft, I'm pretty sure, when the initial report of Kevin Byard being asked to take a pay cut came out. So I want to say sometime in March. And between now, mid-July, when he end of July, let's say, when he ultimately decides to do that. So I'm not sure why so much time passed, and maybe they had to work those things out. It's not like, it's like DeAndre Hopkins said. He was asked what took you so long to sign. He was like, I didn't know it took very long. There's no, we mentioned like guys like George Fant. There's nothing pressing for these guys to sign right now.
It took less time than I thought it would.
Anybody with any kind of. But, I think when the Patriots don't move at all and the Titans are just the only ones out there and the Chiefs are saying, we would, but Chris Jones is apparently unhappy with his contract situation.
And even if they extended Chris Jones, I don't see a world in which the Chiefs would offer the type of number the Titans did.
Titans had the biggest number, and ultimately that is the biggest reason why DeAndre Hopkins is dressed out in a number 10 in two-tone blue today. But I think more than anything, Kevin Byard's willingness to be that kind of person further entrenches him the coaches already love him. Mike Vrabel talked about yesterday, like Kevin Byard was the first dude to that he formed that relationship with, or one of the first dudes that he formed that relationship with, that he knew this was a guy that he could trust implicitly, right? Where he's saying we have to back Kevin Byard off of practice sometimes, just so other guys can get some reps within our defense, so other guys can understand what it is that Kevin Byard, even though they're never going to get in there, because as you mentioned, last week or earlier this week, he's never missed a game in his NFL career due to injury. He's somebody who is, he's just going to go above and beyond, and in today's game, that is far easier said than done because it does require a different kind of sacrifice than the sacrifice that they're already making physically by nature of what it is that their jobs are.
I saw this with Travis Kelce a few weeks ago that I had banked for us to talk about at some point. Basically the conversation of, to win a championship, do you need to have one quote-unquote underpaid star on your roster, right? A Tom Brady, a Travis Kelce, a Kevin Byard. Kelce talked about this with Vanity Fair a few weeks ago. The quote was, "My managers and agents love to tell me how underpaid I am. Anytime I talk about wanting more money, they're just like, why don't you go to the Chiefs and ask them?" When I saw Tyreek go and get $30 million a year, in the back of my head, I was like, man, that's 2 or 3 times what I'm making now. The free market looks like fun until you go somewhere and you don't win. I love winning. I love the situation I'm in. Travis Kelce's total value of his contract is just over $57 million. George Kittle's the highest paid tight end in the league per Spot Track, a 5-year deal with a total value of $75 million. Travis Kelce is the most impactful tight end in the National Football League.
He's more available. I think, man, Kittle, the enjoyment that George Kittle takes in blocking other human beings, it makes me difficult for me to put Travis Kelce too much farther above him, but
he's the most impactful tight end in the National
Travis
Football
Kelce is the best and most impactful tight end in football.
He is the best pass catcher on the most dynamic offense with the best quarterback in the National Football League, and he makes, as far as total value of the contract goes, $250,000 more in total value than Dallas Goedert of the Philadelphia Eagles,
who just got paid,
and he's good with it.
Yeah,
said, "All right, give me the rings."
Well, I mean, there's a couple of things here that I think make the Kelce situation unique, right? How many other families, and there's a few that you can name across NFL history for sure, but how many other families have 2 brothers in the NFL for a decade plus with Jason and Travis Kelce, to the point where any concerns about taking care of your family with generational wealth are removed from the individual because you can, they've both got the same mom, right? They're both there for their mom. The mom is there to support them and all their different things. Like, there is a burden that some NFL players feel to take care of their family, and particularly moms, for all the sacrifices that family made to get them to the place that they are. So that burden is alleviated slightly by Travis Kelce's family dynamic.
And he's not married, to my knowledge, right? I don't think he has any kids.
Famously, Travis Kelce, the only active NFL player that I know of that had a reality dating show at a period of time. You remember that? He tried to get it done for a second season, but apparently Andy Reid was not pro dating show. Pro Travis Kelce is The Bachelor.
But it is easy for people to put themselves in that scenario and say, well, if my total value of my contract was at $57 million as well, I would also give up that extra, in the case of Kelce to Kittle, it's just under $20 million for how many Super Bowl rings at this point? 2?
Yeah.
2 Super Bowl rings, and maybe counting with the Chiefs moving forward. It's easy to look at it from the outside looking in and say, yeah, of course you would do that. I'd be fine with being quote-unquote underpaid if it meant winning. But when you get to that point, I imagine that's a harder conversation to have.
Oh, hell yeah. Are you kidding me? This is the conversation we have all the time. Some players care more about winning than they care about money. That is the vast minority of players. They are in the significant minority of players. For the vast majority of professional athletes, regardless of sport, this is their job. In the same way that you have a job, and sometimes you love your job, and sometimes you hate your job, they have a job to do. They understand that that's their means of income, that they have a certain purpose to fulfill, and that this is their best way to be able to get the most amount of financial benefit from it. Some understand, and these 2 guys that we're talking about have made it, right? It is easier now because Kevin Byard already reset the market one time with the safety market with the contract. And by the way, since then the safety market has only depreciated in the same way that we talk about running backs and inside linebackers. Safety is a position,
not to the level of running backs.
Not quite. Not where the franchise tag is dipping below where it was 3 years ago. But Kevin Byard and Travis Kelce are 2 players that have made it in their NFL careers. Now they want to win more, right? They want to win more. Kevin Byard wants to win a Super Bowl. Travis Kelce wants a 3rd, probably. These things are, I think, unique to the individual and not something that should be applied. So I caution fans in saying just because these two individuals have done this and have said this, and Tom Brady is an example that's cited, those are three, right? Those are three, and those are three really, really accomplished players. Two of them going to the Pro Football Hall of Fame at some point in their career, and the third one in Kevin Byard, could have a decent case as far as safety production is concerned.
You have to be careful about who you approach with that request, right?
Yes.
And I talked to Keith Bullock a lot about this on Friday, the day that we found out about Byard's pay cut. So $14 million base salary for 2023, right? Moved down to 11 with the ability to get it back to 14 with incentives. And just trying to get Bullock's reaction to it, why Kevin Byard, what does this look like for you? He said, well, he's just a nice guy. KB kept coming back to that. He's a nice guy. He's a team guy. He's a leader. He's a go-to for Mike Vrabel and now for Rand Carthon. You have to be very selective about who you approach with those things. So it is kind of unfortunate for KB that he's done that and become one of the most established leaders in this locker room, and that he's the one that has to take the pay cut. But he spoke to it pretty well earlier. He didn't seem he seemed more okay with it on the podium over there than he did talking to Bussin' with the boys about it.
Because now he's out here.
Right.
Now it's started. Right.
Right
Now he's thinking about football. He's had a whole offseason to ruminate on. I can't believe these mother bleepers asked me to take a pay cut. Who do they think they are?
Yeah.
And to process all of those emotions, to now come back out on the phone. Because, again, we're talking about a period of 4 or 5 months that since the initial discussion around Kevin Byard's contract situation started.
And it's different when you're asking him for a pay cut in the middle of the offseason, when, let's say, DeAndre Hopkins is still an Arizona Cardinal, right? And you just need to create room
You
for
can't see all
general
of the things
roster
that are in
moves,
front of
right? Like, well, we could really use some money, KB. You think you can knock it down a bit? As opposed to, D-Hop is here. He's ready. We need this much space. Can you help us do this in order to be a better football team in 2023? That's probably a little bit of an easier conversation with a guy like KB, I would imagine.
615-737-1045 is the number if you want to join at any point. We'll have one more segment for phone calls as well. As far as the other conversations that we had out here, I was not over there for the scrum with Jamarco Jones, who figures to see a fair amount of snaps in-house as the Titans' in-house right tackle candidate. He was working with the starters today. OJ is what we will refer to 61 as, because that's what Mike Vrabel calls him, just for fear of mispronouncing his name. Number 61, John. So they've got OJ backwards. It should be J-O, because his first name's John.
It's because the first two letters of his last name are OJ.
So should I be calling him John OJ? That seems redundant.
Just call him OJ.
Okay. No, not that OJ.
Ojukwu.
I'm sure we're saying something deeply offensive, and however we're mispronouncing that last name.
6'5", 309, UDFA out of Boise State.
He's going to get a lot of snaps there right now. And as we said to start the show, I believe we opened with the right tackle situation and the George Fant. I don't even want to call it a thirst trap because he's not on the roster. The George Fant misleading image that you saw, that many of you screenshot and put out there on social media, assuming that meant that the Titans were soon at that point going to announce George Fant. They'll start with in-house candidates first, it sounds like, and those are the two individuals who will receive the most opportunity to win that job before they have to delegate it elsewhere. Coming up next, we'll update the polls. We'll get your phone calls in. We'll wrap things up from day one of our Titans training camp coverage. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Men's Clinic is where you go if you are somebody who's dealt with erectile dysfunction. If you've noticed problems as you start to age, as your body changes, the Tennessee Men's Clinic can help you get back to performing like you haven't in years. They have an experienced staff who will find the best treatment path for you to make sure that you can get that help that you require. They will also help you work through whatever stigma, whatever negativity, whatever frustration you have about addressing that issue, because a lot of guys wait a year or longer to get the help that they need for ED. Don't do that. They have 2 locations here in Middle Tennessee to help you get back up and running the way that you should be. Their original offices downtown and their new location in Cool Springs. The TennesseeMen'sClinic.com is where you can go to find out about all the different treatment paths that they offer for a variety of different issues that men experience as they age. That's the TennesseeMen'sClinic.com. Last segment here for us, live at Titans training camp. I guess there hadn't been training camp for about an hour, but it's a lovely scene out here on the practice field at St. Thomas Sports Park. Fortunate today that there was a little bit of cloud cover for everybody involved, players, coaches, and individuals in between. So Lucas is telling me that we have calls. 615-737-1045 is the number. Fan favorite around here. Cheeseburger is on the line. Hey, Cheeseburger.
What's going on, Buck? What's going on, Lucas? How y'all doing today?
Great, buddy. Hope you are too.
I'm doing well too. Buck, I want to get your take. What did you think? How did Will Levis look today from day one of starting training camp? And also, all the rookie quarterbacks drafted in this year's draft, who do you think is going to stand out the most this year, or maybe be like a guy to watch out of all the rookie quarterbacks? I'll get your take on that.
Thanks for the call, Cheeseburger. We appreciate it. Levis looked fine. He had a really nice. Were you over here with me when Chigakonkwo came up with that ball that he had no business catching?
Yeah,
that was really, really well placed by Will Levis.
Yeah,
I
in
thought.
a good pocket of space on the sideline where only Chig could get it in between two defenders.
And Chig initially bobbled the pass and was able to. It looked like corral it with one arm. I haven't seen like a sky cam angle of it or anything like that.
It was a tough catch to make, the way he had to kind of come back for it and almost scoop it up off the ground.
Well, because it didn't hit the ground by nature of Chig just having bear clawing it basically into his chest to keep it from being an incompletion. So yeah, Levis I thought looked sharp. Again, not a real pass rush per se, but they're still practicing with a good amount of speed and effort out here. I'm sure Mike Vrabel Mike Vrabel did say that again today about the best teams that he's on understand how to practice regardless of padded or not. But yeah, Will Levis I thought had a solid day. I thought Malik also had a solid day. I saw Malik make a couple of nice passes to Kyle Phillips. I think there's criticisms that could be had of both of those players, but again, as they compete for the backup quarterback job and as they work through the situation that we talked to Rand Carthon about they're probably the best case study of any NFL football team right now for three quarterbacks on the active roster in the regular season, whereas most teams will likely apply that to the postseason once that time comes around. This is a pretty it's, again, the most interesting quarterback battle anywhere in football as far as I'm concerned.
I hesitate to say that because
Baker and Trask get you going more.
No, I don't give a damn about Baker and Trask. I'm talking about the team that I believe is in the top 10 of Super Bowl odds that has no idea who its starting quarterback is going to be in 2023.
Who?
Can you tell me who I'm talking about?
The top 10 of Super Bowl odds that doesn't know who his quarterback's going to be.
The San Francisco 49ers.
No, they cleared Mr. Irrelevant yesterday.
Brock Purdy?
Yeah, him.
So you're going to sit here and you're telling me with full confidence that week one, Brock Purdy is starting over Trey Lance and Sam Darnold.
Yeah, if he's medically cleared.
Making no bones about it.
Yeah.
No, I think that there's
They said it.
I do not think that is
They
settled.
have said the general manager, John Lynch, said he's our guy. I mean, that maybe that only means something in principle, but yeah, it's like Jim Irsay saying that Anthony Richardson's going to start in week one. If they say it, then I'm going to believe it until such time as it's not true. Now, Sam Darnold, I think, has the potential to have the best landing spot that that he's had at any point in his NFL career to succeed under Kyle Shanahan. So maybe that's something that emerges. But Kyle Shanahan has made weirder quarterback choices than Brock Purdy over Trey Lance and Sam Darnold before, has he not?
You'll have to show me where anybody said that Brock Purdy is the starter right now in San Francisco, that they declared that's going to happen in
if he's
week
medically
one.
cleared, he's their guy. Yeah, that's a thing that's out there. I mean, I'm sure I could go back and find you a Pro Football Talk aggregation or something to that effect. But,
I have a hard time believing that there's not going to be a process throughout the course of training camp to see if Trey Lance or Sam Darnold doesn't give them a better chance to win. I agree with you. Brock Purdy deserves that at this point. He deserves to be the starter with what he did for them in the back half of last season. But I just have a hard time thinking that's just done and dusted with Lance, Darnold, and Purdy in the quarterback room, that is not even a quarterback battle to monitor, that Brock Purdy is their guy the way Ryan Tannehill is here for this
season. No, I'm not saying that it's not a situation to monitor. I think it is a pretty unique situation where you gave up all kinds of draft capital to go get Trey Lance, and he's probably third among the options that you've just named, to be completely honest with you. So, yeah, it's a pretty unique situation in San Francisco. But I would say at this point.
So Sammy's showing us video of Purdy warming up in street clothes during training camp. So he's been cleared to practice. We have no idea what kind of work he's going to be able to get in, if any, during the preseason. And just how healthy is he really going to be 100%? Because I know you were shocked when I brought it up to you.
Yeah,
that
that's
Purdy
wild.
got cleared.
They literally were talking about his elbow blowing up in the NFC Championship game and then talking about he might miss an entire year, and now all of a sudden he's medically cleared for training camp. That's wild.
So they've said he's cleared and ready to play without restrictions. You will have to show me where they said definitively that Brock Purdy is the starting quarterback for the 49ers in 2023.
If he's healthy.
You'll have to show me where he said that.
Okay, I don't have that at my disposal right now. My phone's dead, and I haven't used my laptop basically since 2 weeks ago before SEC.
John Lynch says he's cleared and ready to go. I have not seen them officially name him as the starter for the 2023 season.
Well, yeah, because they don't know if he can play yet. 615-737. Well, I guess no more time for phone calls because it's time for some polls, please.
And now the polls have to be updated. We've reached a crucial point in the show. It's time to update the polls. Take my hand and get to the chopper. Lucas Panzica will give us the final update. Why am I yelling? It's giving me a headache. But it's only a headache. It's not a tumor. Hasta la vista, baby. I'll be back. Why am I yelling?
Yes, Lucas. Why are you yelling? Nope. What? Oh, where did he come from?
Jackson put his own spin on the polls.
Is he? What do you mean? Is he a part of this quarterback controversy too? I thought I was done with him.
Oh, presented by Two Rivers Ford, who sells below MSRP on any non-specialty new Ford. Who will be the Titans' CB1 in 2023? Sean Murphy-Bunting or Christian Fulton? 54% say it's Christian Fulton. Should we have included Roger McCreary in this?
Roger McCreary is more durable than both of them. He played more games last year. Started more games last year than both of them. McCreary is probably, though, I mean, it depends on how you define CB1. Can a slot corner be a CB1? I would argue yes in today's NFL.
What position battle are you most excited to see at Titans training camp? Joe says the battle for QB2 and wide receiver 3. Ashley agrees. Willis/Levis battle for QB2. JH says left tackle. Tyler says kicker, which is definitely going to be something.
Honestly, did you pay any attention to the kickers today? I didn't watch any kickers today.
I did not see a lot of the kickers today. I am actually shocked that not a single person that replied said right tackle.
Well,
more people said left tackle than right tackle.
How the hell is that possible? Do you think they just that there was a typo by a variety of different people in our mentions? Anyway, okay. Well, the left tackle, as far as I know, is not up for dispute. The right tackle, they're having to figure out things on the fly because the former starting right tackle was gambling in the facility.
Which of these available free agents gets picked up first? Between Ezekiel Elliott, Melvin Ingram, Jadeveon Clowney, Dalvin Cook, all still out there. 73% say it'll be Cook. 12% say Zeke. 10% say Melvin Ingram. Only 5% think it'll be Clowney.
Man, Clowney. Where do you think his next job is? Do you think he gets another job in the league? He has to.
Yeah, I think he'll be a mercenary for some team.
Or like a mid-season acquisition when
yeah.
somebody tears an ACL. Yeah, I mean, I don't know that any of those guys, because there's still a variety of free agents who are out there who you would recognize. I know Teddy Bridgewater is still out there taking quarterback visits, and you'll see more names pop up that you look around and say, oh, I didn't realize that guy was still out there. And inevitably, more of those will manifest during training camp.
Fair or foul? Jim Harbaugh getting suspended 4 games by the NCAA. 62% say fair, 38% say foul. Our buddy Travis Rockhold, noted Ohio State diehard Travis Rockhold, says should be more.
Can you give me a 30-second synopsis of what he did to get suspended? Because we weren't going to talk about that at all today, so I didn't look at it.
It's essentially recruiting, making impermissible contact during the COVID recruiting dead period, and then
Pruitt,
and then not quite like hundreds of dollars in Chick-fil-A bags, but sure, impermissible contact during the dead period. Not nearly as significant as what Pruitt and his staff did throughout the course of 2 years, but essentially also misleading and lying to investigators played a big role in him negotiating for a 4-game suspension. Michigan expects to cruise through its first 4 games.
Wasn't there some line in there, and I didn't know if I got by the onion or something like that based on the ridiculousness of the line.
Pruitt?
Of Pruitt, the idea that he had been giving them more money giving the recruits more money during the George Floyd situation to balance that out.
It was one instance where a recruit's mother approached Pruitt crying about not being able to pay bills. Adam Sparks and Mike Wilson have been doing all the reporting on this, so go check it out for the exact wording. But he gave her a few $100s because he told investigators that George Floyd was on his mind.
It reads like a Mad Lib that you just made up. The entire Tennessee recruiting violations and scandal. What a time to be alive. Those the polls?
Those the polls.
Excellent. That's the show. We will be back in studio tomorrow, back out on the practice field on Friday, where we will be joined by more people, players and coaches associated with the Tennessee Titans. It's part of our Titans training camp interview series. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us today and for all the help that we got from everybody that was hanging out here on site with us. Blaine and Mickey will continue to keep you entertained coming up next.